guys.
Back again. We are live again on a Thursday night. Ed was like, hey, we could always do like a random after hours open panel thing on your channel. And I was like, yeah, sure. I like that idea. That sounds good. So we gave it a couple minutes to see if anybody else went live. I didn't see any notifications pop up. And so here we are. Now, the link is at the top of the chat if you would like to come up and talk with us. One thing I would ask is that we, or at least somebody in the chat, you kind of be familiar with you, just because we have had, not on this channel, but in the Fish Fam channels, if you will, trolls in the past that have popped up on streams exposing themselves. So we're going to avoid that by just having some familiarity to you. So as long as we know you, or a couple people in the chat that I know well know you, and say, hey, this is actually a legitimate person and not some dude trying to show us private parts, we'll let you up on.
That's why nobody lets Zen Ginger on their show anymore.
Yeah, I had to delete that quick. I mean, it was getting a lot of views, but YouTube was going to hit me real bad for that.
I bought a bunch of stuff today. Well, I was at Hobby Lobby so long today. Look, I bought a bottle cap light thing, and I've had this like skull. Keeping it skull themed, and I thought it would look cool with lights in it. So,
oh yeah, dude, I like that idea.
Nico's drinking my water. Actually, it's his water. I set this water up for him to drink during the show. It keeps him from drinking mine.
Oh yeah, I always have Nico his own drink. Sorry, I got worried for a second. I looked up and it was all grainy on my other monitor. For some reason, YouTube had switched where I'm viewing it to 144 for the definition. So I had a little bit of a heart attack. I'm like, what happened with our quality? Fortunately, it's coming through in 1080, so we're good there. But yeah, feel free to throw questions, comments in the chat. We're happy to read those off. Doesn't necessarily have to stay fishy focused. It could be like, what's your favorite color, Ed? Stuff like that. But we do always try and avoid religion, politics, and those type of things. We just don't talk about them on here. We're all here for fish.
No dog questions while Nico's on the board.
Darn it. And if we get enough people that want me to, I could always swap back over to the phone and show off some more of that stuff on the macro lens, since we got kind of cut short on that earlier. But it's just whatever people want. And again, if you're one of these awesome fishy people in here, you want to come up, who knows, maybe you haven't actually made your debut on video yet, but you've got a channel. Feel free to come up here and give it a try. Kind of get comfortable, tell people about your channel, all that good stuff. See who we got in here. I'm going to go from the participants list. I don't get to do this on my other channel very often because it's horrible for analytics to like where my channel is concerned. If I go through and I started out reading the names and stuff, and especially with so many people, YouTube's like, we're not showing this to anybody. From the participants list, we've got Delilah's Critters, Jenny Lynn, Kins 3D and Aquatics, Mark Strolson, Mexicali Fishkeeper, Richard Reynolds, Sarah Jessie, the Savannah Darter, Silver Creek Aquatics, Scuba Stevo's Aquatics, Steve P 2003 Aquatics, and the Zen Ginger. Thanks y'all for coming to hang out. Debbie Holding just popped in here. Hello. I figured there'd be quite a few members that showed up in this stream.
I wasn't planning on a Nico trying to get the wires. Do you see that? He's such a cute cat.
I need to move my chat because I actually have it right over top of you on this screen, and it's supposed to be up on the big monitor here. There we go. Now I can see you. All right. Let me grab. Kids 3D and Aquatics says, how do you feel about the 3D printed items in fish keeping and twining? Clearly, I like it. So, with the 3D printed stuff, I base that the same as I do anything else that goes in the fish tank, as long as it's safe, not just, of course, molecularly or chemically speaking, but in terms of the structure of it, as long as it's not like something that's going to poking eyeballs out, and fish are going to get trapped inside of. The same things we kind of talked about in Ed's stream about decor and different rating different decorations. I like a lot of that stuff. There's some really cool things being 3D printed, not just for in the tanks, but out of the tanks as well. All sorts of different little holders for your aquascaping tools, little bitty shrimp play areas and stuff. There's so many things that you can do. The sky's kind of the limit. So I'm definitely for it as long as it's something that's not going to cause harm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and apparently there's two different types. There's a liquid type and a string-based type that makes it, and one is good and one is bad for your fish tank. You can't put. Sean Peck was talking about it because he was kind of bummed out because he wants it for miniatures, making little guys to paint and stuff, and then he also wanted it in case he would make something cool to stick in his fish tank, like maybe even a heater lamp, a holder or something, all sorts of weird stuff you could do.
Yeah, and there, Ken just confirmed that. Correct. Liquid is bad, though resin-based. Or it is resin-based, rather.
Oh, no!
What did you do?
Oh, thank God.
Oh, it's
okay, so...
Goodness gracious.
It looks pretty cool all lit up, but the little thing fell through the hole. So I'm going to have to make something thicker or tighter. I think it'd be easier to add tape to this. I hope you don't mind me just doing things while we talk.
Nah, just do what you need to do. Hey there, Debbie. Debbie said I was waking up waiting for the kettle to boil. Debbie's another one of those people that comments on videos and streams and stuff. I get to talk to in that aspect, even when I don't see her in the chats. Always good to see you.
Debbie is one cool chick.
One day I'll invest in 3D printing. It's just so far down the line on things money needs to go towards. Setting up the fish room. I want to build part of that out for a studio area, because right now I have a 4 foot by 4 foot area essentially and no surfaces to film on. So when I film something, I pull out one of these little collapsible TV trays that I'm going to disappear behind. It's perfectly under my desk, and that's moved around and situated. So I'm looking forward to that. I was talking about Dick Corey earlier, kind of getting some advice from him on what's a decent size to build that thing out at, and kind of some of the stuff I wanted to do with it. So gonna have some totes in it. It's gonna have the live food center. It's gonna have, of course, lots of breeding area, and it's gonna have a fry area too. I'm gonna go through and build another fry rack. I'll probably go closer to what Dean does. The one that I did make, which there's a video on, shameless plug, that I made. It's right back at the start of the channel. Was just kind of like, here's how you can make one really cheap that works with stuff you probably already have around. It was just some PVC and a little pump. But I'll do one that's more long term and just some fun stuff like that. But eventually I'd love to get a 3D printer in the mix where I can print little things. Like I need hangers for lighting in that double stack 75 gallon that I got from a local fish store. And that local fish store actually 3D printed some hangers for theirs. So I'm like, I could do so many little things like that.
Yeah, they've really made some neat things at that shop.
Oh, yeah.
They make a lot of frag holders, too, from the 3D printer.
There we go. Now we're back. Just found a good bunch of crypts I forgot I had. A good bunch of nuisance. It's a misfit. I've got plants sitting on the 75 that I need to get planted. I pulled them out, I trimmed them and propagated, and they're still sitting there from yesterday because there's so many products going.
For some reason, all my water sprite died, in my 210-gallon tank. It used to be like I had so much of it you like couldn't shake a stick and not stick at it. I don't know. I'm not using that phrase right, but I had a lot. It was like an island, and it was killing off all my other plants that were planted at the bottom. And now I've barely got any. I'm afraid it's going to take a major hit on my shrimp population because they lived all over it. And my plants on the bottom just aren't like good for hiding.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I have a thing I need to fix real quick. I got derailed earlier when I was running behind getting ready for the stream, and I kind of forgot I was water changing that little zebra fry thing that I've got, and I overfilled it, and I halfway fixed it during my live stream when I was filming live, and I noticed it, but I never completely fixed it. So I think we might have lost a couple into the main tank, and if that's the case, I'm sure those guppies have followed them. But we'll see. We'll see.
There we go. Well, it doesn't look the coolest, but it works. It'll look cool in the dark. So that was one thing I got today was the string of lights. I got a Godzilla like yield sign, which I find is very constructive. If you see Godzilla walking down the road, yield and give him plenty of space. He's probably heading to your local nuclear power plant. So you may want to just drive the opposite way. I was telling you how I was going to buy more wood today for the little fish. I did get the big piece for the Clash, but they were out of the small pieces. Did we lose you, James?
Can you hear me?
Oh, we couldn't hear you for a while there.
Sorry, I was being quiet while you were talking. I was checking to see if I could notice any fry that did escape from this thing.
Okay.
But the second set of zebra fry are now free swimming, so it makes it kind of hard to tell whether it's all the new fry or if some of the old fry stayed in it. Looks like we've still got everybody. I need to keep an eye on that system. If you couldn't hear me before, I screwed up and forgot I was water changing that earlier and overfilled it. So I think a couple of those little zebra fry may have swam out into the main tank, in which case the guppies, I'm sure, devoured them, but I was taking a look just in case. We've still got quite a few in there. Hey there, Crystals, Pets, and Plants. And actually, I could switch over to the other setup and show some of this stuff, because I know it was a little rushed earlier, and it takes a second with that macro setup to focus on some of the stuff. Let me this real quick so I don't leave this and drain it too much now that I've filled it too much. And I'm going to turn it over to you for just a minute. Again, for anybody that's just coming in, if you do want to come up on panel and chat with us and talk fish and whatnot, the link is pinned at the top of the chat. You're welcome to come up. Also, if you're somebody that maybe doesn't want to show their face or does videos and you don't show yourself, you're comfortable on camera, you're welcome to come up, turn your camera off and just talk to us, via your mic. That is fine. I know some people are hesitant to show their face, but they don't mind to talk on the stream. So that being said, give me about 2 minutes and I will be right back, and we'll switch over to the mobile camera and look at some fishies.
Awesome. Well, I am going to keep working on a project. I want to finish this goldfish tonight. I've got his the difference between my new batch of fish that I'm making nowadays versus the ones that I originally made, the first 12 for giveaways, was I left all the fins on the fish. And when I cook them, the fins bend or break off, and it's just a pain in the butt. So I've been making the fins all separate. And then so I'll glue this little guy on to his little arm, to his little body there. And then I've got these little things are going to go underneath so you can really see. But, I still was struggling on how to make his fan tail. And I had made it nice and curved, I guess like this. And when it was in the oven, this stuff gets real soft. So it folded and then fell flat. So they were just like this, and they were just baking onto each other. And that's not what I want for a fantail. So I've got two balls here I'm going to heat up in my hand and make them flexible. And this time what I'm going to do is take round rocks that are already curved, and I'm going to put the fin, so you can see how this fin is all solid flat. So it'll be more draped, and it'll drape on the rock. And I'm not worried about these things exploding because I only cook them for 15 minutes for 275 degrees. So that'll be okay. And if I was baking this stuff for going into a fish tank, I bake it longer because I want to make sure all the chemical is completely out of the stuff. But for just having fun and making Christmas ornaments or little statues like this, just the standard time is just fine. So got to just warm it up a little bit. And there we go. I've already messed with this clay a little bit yesterday, so it's already a little broke in. So the idea is I'm making a tail, but I'm also going to try to get the curvature of the back of his tail back here. I'm not too worried about it being perfect though, because I can sand this. There I am. If sanding doesn't seem to work, I can even use my Dremel on it to really take a lot off. I really love how the Dremel just carves up this stuff just like wood. It's really amazing. But yep. So I'm always like, I love making stuff and talking at the same time. So that's why I absolutely love these type of streams. But I also want to show you, check this Spanish moss. It's all plastic. But it's like normally $20, but it's like 50% off, which it's always 50% off. Come on. But that's a lot of fake breeding, guppy grass or something if you need it. So like if you're doing some tanks, and a lot of these super high-end breeders, they don't use lights and plants and dirted bottoms. So I'm not going to probably light all my tanks in my new fish room. So I'll be using some of that, and I think that'll work perfect. It'll be green, the fry will hide. It'll be awesome. It'll work really good. Did anybody want to come up? More than happy to have anybody like to talk. And I'm afraid of what the Freaky Fish Lady just said. Let's see. So, yeah, guys, you're more than welcome to come up and talk to us if you like. I really think what happened tonight was the temperature on the water. I really wish I would have went with a warm water, and I think that's what caused and I think this Krylon probably reacts even more differently than normal spray paints. It probably dries even quicker because it's more plastic than whatever paint is. So I was like, it was super hot when I did the last one. So I bet it was 90-degree water And when I did it tonight, I bet you it was 65-degree water because I took it straight from the hose that was in our ground. And yeah, it was not hot water. So I can't wait to rewatch that and see how that went. I was looking so forward to that for a long time. Just didn't seem to work out. But tomorrow I'm going to let that water get real hot, and I'm going to try to do it again and see if I can get it to work. Oh, look, we got Fry. Now let's see if we got a voice. Right now we can't hear you, James. I really like that stand James has. I think I'm going to try to get one of those wire stands kind of like that. LRB.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so I'm going to talk through the mic that's on this other setup, my good mic. I've got it switched over to pick up the whole room. I didn't mean to get rid of everybody.
It's all right.
Hey, can you fix that for me? Because I'm holding the phone with one hand and reaching across the room.
Did you want your other one on?
Yeah, I need it on because that's the mic I'm using. Because also that way it doesn't echo.
Let's see if I can do this and make it big.
It's got to be blurry from far away because I've got the macro things on.
Oh, not me.
This is why we play around with stuff after hours.
Why does it keep making me the big guy?
Let me switch hands. Put this over. Everybody gets to go for a spin. All right. Let me try it real quick here. No. Okay. Well, I'll just.
Darn it.
Nope.
You guys are stuck with me tonight.
No. No, I'm just kidding. Let's do this. No, that's going to do. There's that. There is. Sarah.
Hey, Sarah. The Savannah Darter is in the house.
Hey, guys.
What's the puppy's name? You know what? We can't hear you, James. I hate to say it.
I wasn't talking.
Oh, good. So, Sarah, how is it down in Georgia right now?
Hot and rainy.
Uh-oh. We're supposed to get rain, I think, all day tomorrow. Oh, no. And I wanted to try to make a redo of this film today. Oh, well. Your weather normally just moves up to us.
Yeah. I have everything on mute, so I can't hear myself. So hopefully y'all can hear me. I have everything. Nope. I had everything on mute. Okay. How's everybody been?
Doing good.
Good.
It's pretty neat.
Hmm?
It's pretty neat having James doing these breeding projects.
Yeah.
I have never bred Danios ever in my life, but I'd really love to learn.
Yeah. Sorry guys, I'm on my phone, so it's a little shaky. But
Okay.
you know, I told you the other day about my Cory cats. Finding a couple of them jumped out the tank. So I never knew that Cory cats would jump out of the tank, and I had the top off because I had a lily in there that was completely grown up out the tank. And so I found those two. So I redid the tank and put the one that I had left plus the fry that I found back in there. This baby is probably 3 months old now. I did catch them teeing off and all of that, but I never seen eggs. My guess is that the neons ate most of the eggs, but there was one that survived. So I guess it just shocked my other adult cory cat. So now I just have the baby in that tank. So now I've got to figure out, because I moved the neons to a different tank, which I do that a lot. I switch stuff around. But now I just got to figure out what I'm going to put in that tank. So now I have a 10-gallon tall corner tank that I might end up putting some guppies in.
Oh, cool.
So I got a 30-gallon tank coming. I believe he's going to be here next month. I've got a friend that lives in Michigan that's getting rid of some of his tanks. So he's going to bring it down to me. And that's going to be for the baby turtle.
Oh, cool. That baby turtle's so cute.
It is. I think it's a female. I'm not totally sure yet because it's only 3 weeks old. So, but I think it's a female. It's got very short toenails, which is one of the signs that males usually have really long toenails.
Oh, yeah? Do the
But
males dig a hole for the girls or something to lay their eggs, or is that?
I don't know why the males usually have longer ones, but it was just something that came up in my research because, I had to quickly do research because of the way that we found the turtle. So for those who don't know, thanks, Din. Yes, I'm one away from 100.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, I do have a new baby turtle, and it is an eastern mud turtle, also known as a common mud turtle. They are native to us, and I had to look up laws to make sure it was legal for me to keep it, because the state of Georgia has a lot of different laws with turtles, and one of those laws is a 4-inch law. You cannot buy or sell a turtle under 4 inches. Well, these particular turtles they only get 3 to 5 inches full grown after 6 to 10 years.
Oh,
and
I like
so you
that.
can't really find these types of turtles in the state of Georgia. But it is legal for me to have it, as long as I don't have more than 10, and as long as it was taken off of my own property, which it was taken off of my mom's property.
So how do you think it got there?
She had a swamp in her backyard. Like, her backyard lines up against some woods that have swamp areas back there, but it's all dried up right now. And it was in the yard underneath her little swing by her rose bed. And her dog went out there and was sniffing around and found it, picked it up. She called him over to her, and he brought it to her and handed it to her. Did not hurt the turtle whatsoever, just brought it to her. So she kept it in a bucket with a little bit of water, and I went over and got it. So
that's awesome. Was it hungry when you got it?
It didn't eat for 2 days.
Oh, wow.
It would not eat for 2 days. Now, at that point, it was only about 7 or 8 days old. Looking at the plastron, the umbilical opening had not completely closed up yet. And it takes them about 7 days to lose their umbilical cord totally. So it didn't have an umbilical cord, but the umbilical opening was still not totally closed up. So it had to have been between 7 and 10 days old when we found it. And I've had it for a little over almost 2 weeks now. So it's about 3 weeks old.
You've become like a turtle expert.
Well, I had to do a lot of quick research. And, when I do research, it's not just one website. It's like 20 different websites and 15 different videos and all that good stuff. So, but yeah, I did call a reptile person here at Exotics and sent over some footage and some close-up pictures just to verify that I had identified it correctly. It took me about 2 hours to actually go through all of the verification process to figure out exactly what kind of turtle it was. Yay, I got 100.
Oh,
Thanks,
that's
Zen.
awesome.
That's cool. But anyway, right now it's in a 10-gallon tank, and I found out that mud turtles, especially when they're young, don't swim very well. They are aquatic, but they do not swim as well. So it's in a tank that's a 10-gallon tank that has about 4 to 5 inches of water in it with a lot of plants and logs and all of that so that it doesn't drown. But he does eat bloodworms and brine shrimp. At this point, he's eaten frozen bloodworms and frozen brine shrimp that I've thawed out. He still will not touch his pellets.
I don't blame him. I didn't want to eat cereal today.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I'm just going to not have breakfast because I don't feel like cereal.
So, James, what exactly are those?
So that fry right there is just the metallic blue guppy fry, and then I fed them some banana worms. Which now that we've got this set up, you'll be able to see that. I'm pulling it out. I know that's not a focus. You only get like a half an inch when you're playing with the macro ones to get it right. But I wanted to show off the banana worms again. Now that I've got them camera set up properly.
Yeah, they're tiny.
But they're super cute.
This is actually out of like a pedicure kit. I always stealing little metal utensils out of stuff around the house. Probably sometimes. But don't tell Mrs. Feeder. We'll focus this back in.
I wish I could learn to breed Danios. Really have a project I'd like to do with
The zebra Danios were super easy. I literally just put something down to catch the eggs. So you can actually see in this, you can see some of the microworms swimming around. And those guppy fry, they're about 36 hours old at this point, big 48 at the most. Like with most fish, when they see that movement, that kind of triggers an eating response. It's showing up as well for you all as it is on my screen. But I can actually see the individual worms squirming and the little fry consuming some of them. So a lot of times you run into issues with trying to get fry to eat things because if you put in like super fine, not even pellet, but like a powder, like starter first bites, which I do use. But a lot of times there's not that natural trigger for them to go ingest it. It's just that kind of some more crap floating around in the water to them. Whereas if you get with the live foods like the microbes and the vinegar gills and the microworms, banana worms, and stuff like that, where it's actually something that's moving around in the water, they go, ooh, I want to try and eat that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So are the banana worms easier than the baby brine shrimp when they're that small?
At that size, it really doesn't matter. Maybe guppies and endlers, I would really keep more towards the brine, which I feed both. But the brine shrimp, Bentley Pasco did a great video on this, and he actually compared all the different nutrients and a bunch of different live foods. The baby brine is more nutritious. And again, if you're feeding just like microworms, there have been reports of deformities if it's a diet of just that. So again, varied diet with anything. But they don't have an issue consuming either. They'll do the vinegar eels. They'll do the microworms, the banana worms. They'll do the baby brine shrimp. They're still too small, so to speak, for Daphnia, only because even the smallest Daphnia I have, it'd be a pain to try and catch them without catching a bunch of the big ones, and the big ones are a little bit too big for them. Which I have Daphnia Pules, which is smaller than the Magnum. But still too big for little bitty babies like that. And then scuds aren't really a live food for babies necessarily, unless you're getting like big scuds, good size. But those are a great live food for a lot of your adult fish. And they also can be used. Dan's Fish talks about this. They can be used for helping to clean up algae and stuff out of plants. So, like, I'm going to set up a 20 long scud tank once I get them populated. And then if you've got like some Java moss with some algae in there, you can throw it in there, and those scuds will graze on that algae. Jenny Lynn, thank you so much. Jenny Lynn. Oh, goodness. I was trying to keep up with chat on the phone here. Let me see. And Zendu had a question. I'll run back up in a second and grab that. But Jenny Lynn, thank you so much for welcome to the good family. While I can see some of them, I'm going to try and lift this up with the tripod to show off. Oh, that's good. One. Okay. Trying to hold up the tripod. It was just easier than trying to keep the phone steady. Because with the macro lens, there's one right. Look behind the rock seems like water-free looking things. I think I've got maybe a dozen or so of them. Maximum, probably more like 10. There one went. There he goes. So I put him in this little thing. I had him in a 4-gallon fish bowl, but I really couldn't observe them, and I couldn't tell, are they living, are they eating, are they dying, what's going on? So I moved them into here, and as I was moving them, there were several pairs of them that were latched together. So I'm going to assume that was their breeding. I'm going to take this off here real quick now that I've got full screen up, and see if I can show you all the flashlight. If you look at eye, there's so little purchase bottom, but the light reflects through. Like this one little guy might get cleaned out from holding the phone in the flashlight. You often see him swimming around. Several. So teeny tiny. These guys are too small to even start with baby brine, vinegar eels, or the micro or banana worms. And that's where you've got to try and help with paramecium, which can be in the other tank. Another thing you can do if you can't get a culture going, maybe not quite as successful, but you can feed liquidized egg yolk. They'll oftentimes eat that. So I'm going to be feeding a lot of different things into here, and then just keeping the water really, really clean, just to make sure they've got stuff in here. So I threw in the Java moth just because that oftentimes has a lot of microorganisms they can eat. And then I've got this system, which I saw Gina in here. Here's the Aqualifter I bought from you. And I'm really glad that I did, because mine broke yesterday that I've had for a long time. It stopped working yesterday, so I'm glad I had this one. But I cheat. I used the little Airstone hack. It's a filter on here so it doesn't suck up any fry. And then when I want to drain it, let's move this. So this pumps water, not air, for anybody that's not familiar with the Aqualifter. So now I can drain it. And then all I've got to do is switch those, put that back in there, move that to the main tank, and then I can top it back off. I had 2 of them running. So I had one like this, putting water in, and the second one was pushing water back out. But even without the Aqualifter, you can use just a piece of airline and an Airstone and siphon that. And that's what I do for like cleaning out fry blends, along with like when I change the water on my cultures, like my Daphnia, because those guys are so small and I don't want to try and fish them out with them. I can just siphon the water through that Airstone, and I'm not going to suck up like that.
I hope I'm not too loud. I'm using my Dremel.
Oh, you're fine, buddy. You're fine. I was talking a lot, so I shut up.
Oh, that's awesome.
Bear with me. I don't even know what I'm pointing at. All right. Let's see. Yeah. We can touch. I'm trying to figure out because those are really fun to watch. This is not ready to hatch yet. So here's what I'm hatching out. So that's not ready to go. But let me see if I can get a scoop of where I'm raising them up because there's not many really big ones in there. Still, cool big stuff. There we go.
James Scuba is asking if you sell the guppies or do you breed for personal use?
I will be selling. So that's part of why I got, and there's baby brine shrimp. That's part of why I've started reacquiring guppies, even though I'm not moved yet. You can see even the adults love baby brine. Another great thing is if you feed baby brine with the net, so like I just get the net right in there, fed it to them, they get used to that net meaning food. And a lot of times, if I've got the net in there, they just instantly run for it. So it makes it easier to catch them too sometimes. But I will be selling. It'll probably be springtime, which is part of why I'm using one of my little DIY breeder boxes because I don't have any babies from these pairs that I bought yet. So I wanted to save every one I could and get a colony started. So once that colony gets started, I hate to ship in the winter. That I had a 100% success rate until UPS slowed down in this game, and then I think one person took 10 days to get there, and it didn't turn out well. So I refused to ship in the winter. One for customer service and two for killing fish. But yeah, that's the plan. I mean, the overall plan is to get this new fish room built, which I think is going to be 20 by 50. Breed the heck out of stuff because I love to do it, and then offer fish for sale again. And if things work out well, look at maybe importing some fish. I'm going to be doing a lot of growing live plants and offering them for sale. Hopefully, starting next spring, do a bunch of different types. I'm going to have plant grow tanks, and then I'm going to have an immersed grow rack for a lot of our aquatic plants. And hopefully convert those over, but if not, just sell them and sell them as immersed grown so people are where they look.
Funny Viper, it's Sarah J. Sieber, the Savannah daughter, talking, by the way, Ivy. James Zen had a question for you. Were those moss cows or the metallic? Show the top of the metallics.
So these are a beautiful top-down fish. These are great for a pond or anything like that where you're not going to get to see the side. Even though they look gorgeous from the side, they look absolutely amazing from the top. So one of the things I'm going to be working on with the ones I have is breeding out even fuller top-down detail. You'll see one of them, which will probably come out of this tank, doesn't have quite as much of the metallic on its head as the other three males do. And so I'm going to pull his genetics out of here and just keep breeding them more up.
Yeah, and that's why, I've seen people use those specific guppies for their small indoor patio ponds and things like that because they are so gorgeous looking down on top of them.
Get these albinos. These are Escadro albino.
I'm going to be right back, guys. I'm going to throw something in the oven.
Yeah, they're pretty from the side. They've got a lot of different color and sheen, but if you look at it from the top, there's not so much going on.
Yeah, I was talking about those blue metallics.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I had a lag.
No, I got exactly what you were saying. I was just confirming that, yeah, there's definitely a big difference between those and a lot of your, see, that's from the top is okay because he's got a huge set of finish, but it's not nearly as enjoyable as those metallics are. So people just come in to say hi.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That is definitely a side view fish, and that's without the light. My light's set halfway back, so you don't get the front lighting, but if I shine a little bit of light on it. It's a lot prettier when there's actually a light on it. It's not backlit, but it's still not a really pretty top. In regard to asking like a water temp is free if you need to do, getting foamy and cloudy water. So I would check online. Most of the time, I think they're required to post when they're going to do like a flush and stuff like that. Kind of like they have to post like a boil water notice. It's not quite the same, but I would check online for your local municipality and see if they've got anything posted. Sometimes you can call them just depending upon where you're at. You go through and be able to get that information. Not necessarily the customer service number like you pay your bill at, but online a lot of times you can find fixing it. I mean, that's, I don't know. I would definitely do water testing and kind of work from there. It could be nothing, but it could be maybe some bacteria being flushed with that tank. Some sort of everything they've added in there. So many variables it could be. Because you can get things that you wouldn't think would be chlorinated water. If you look at the bacteria involved in nitrification process, a lot of that stuff can still live for X amount of time, even in so like water with a chloramine content scale for that. Nitrifying bacteria can still live for over an hour. So there are a lot of weird things that can happen with water, even when you think it's purified. And stuff, it's to fix where they found additional bacteria and wiped out, so they add extra chemicals to it. Without testing it, like to help somebody. I was trying to help somebody troubleshoot a problem once on why their fish was dying, and their cat had turned their CO2 regulator full blast. So it was suffocating the fish out with CO2. There was no way I could have fixed that. Then they came back and told me after the fact. It turns out my CO2 was full blast. The cat was rubbed up against it. Like, oh yeah, I never would have been able to tell you that. And I'll switch it off full screen unless anybody wants to see anything. Ability. There's a better shot of the thin reveals. Yeah, they're super tiny things. So
Wow.
they're like the size of a fingerprint ridge, width-wise. Not even smaller than the action. But even still not small enough for they are a couple of them there. You see them, they still really don't show up without the light. I didn't even notice them until I was cleaning the bottom of this tank and happened to see one little thing move around when I was cleaning underneath that screen, and then I found like 7 of them. But I'm gonna put this on the tripod and back it out of the chat so we can bring everybody else up in case they want to show stuff off. I've kind of been watching over here. I see a $5 super chat. It's really hard to meticulously hold this thing with the macro lens on it and read the chat. Just in case we do come back to it, it's already set up good to go. Throw myself out of here. Oh, see, ABC's hanging out back there. Y'all didn't even say anything.
Oh, I didn't see him way down there.
See, and
Dang
I
it.
don't see I didn't have stat on my phone. I didn't have the panel view. I just had the visitor view, if you will.
Let me see
Let's
if I can
remove
add
me.
him.
Yeah, my phone's dying, so I'm gonna head out. It doesn't let me see that anybody's backstage, unfortunately. Hey, Kenny.
Hi,
It
Sarah.
was all on Ed. Sarah, thank you for coming up and talking and hanging out and sharing about the turtles. You sent me those pictures, and they're absolutely adorable. Thank
Yeah,
you for that.
yeah.
If you haven't, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to plug your channel and say if you haven't, make sure you check out Sarah's channel. Link is in the chat. Sarah does some awesome stuff: freshwater, saltwater, turtles, all the things.
All the things. Yep. Real quick before I go, I'm just gonna flip my phone around because I don't feel like going through and changing the screen. But I did a little maintenance on my tank yesterday, and apparently my beta doesn't like where I put her plants because most of them are now floating. But this is my aquascape tank, and part of my plants did die off, so the whole back section on the left hand side, I don't know if y'all can see it, I've got to replace plants back here.
Oh, it's so pretty though.
It looks good the way it
Really
is,
good.
though. It gives it more. I think it would give it more depth this way.
I like having open spaces too.
Yeah.
Like if
It
you,
does.
if you
I mean,
had-
it does look really good. And then, like, I don't know how to do this. Yeah, there we go. This side over here, all of those got trimmed, which I see a few of them have started floating, so I've got to redo all of those. But all of those got trimmed. They were all the way up. I planted them in a different tank, kind of a 360 view.
I think what I would do with that
Girl.
is I would add some more of the aqua soil or whatever you're using for substrate in the empty corner, and kind of
Mhm.
slope it up towards the back corner, and just put some carpeting plants in and let the plants grow in behind the driftwood. I think that'd look really cool.
Yeah.
I agree.
Now these plants here, they will carpet eventually. I don't know if you can tell them, but these down here, which half of them are now floating along with my other little floating plants. So I've got to get in there and redo all that. But she came from Aquatic Aesthetic in Tennessee.
Nice.
That's
So
awesome.
she's the one I picked up on the way home from when we were up there for Aquaticon. So, yep, tank's doing good.
Nice.
But anyway, I'm down to 5% on my phone battery, so I'm gonna go plug it up and finish watching. And you guys have a great night. Thank you for putting my link out there. I just hit 100 on stream.
Congrats on that.
So that's exciting. I'm gonna have to get back into doing some more videos. I did redo another room in the house, and pretty much made it my craft room / streaming room. So I've got my background up on the wall and all of that. It's just not completely done yet, but I'll be back on shortly.
Nice. Well, thank you so
Anyway.
much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry, I
Well, good
was
to see you.
listening to you and watching Bunny Viper's video at the same time. Thank you, Sarah. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for hanging out and the support. We'll let you go before your battery dies.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Love you too.
I'm trying to get my chat to pop, but it won't pop.
So I'm going to tell you right now, I agree with Mark Strelson here. And I said it before and I'll say it again. First off, thank you, Mark, for the $5 super chat. You were awesome, showing all sorts of love tonight, supporting. I really do appreciate that. I know I'm talking about building this new fish room and all that stuff, but you have to understand, I'm broke. That is all coming through an investor of sorts and traded physical labor on my part, building other buildings in order to make that happen. So all the support helps to keep the channel going. And thank you so much. Mark said, do yourself a favor, folks, and watch Buddy Viper's Daphne video. Absolutely. So I was just listening / watching that on the other monitor. And though I've muted it now and I'm letting it play all the way through for a full view and all those wonderful things YouTube likes, she was going very much in depth with Daphne and what they are, what they need, and things like that. So I highly recommend you click on that, open it up in a new tab, or go watch it now and come back and see us. Either way.
Awesome. I'll have to take a look at it later.
He's done a really good job. I'll have to listen all the way through, but what I was heard is like what I was hearing. It's impressive. So very cool.
I've got a couple of fish tanks like sitting out on my back deck, and 2 of them are filled with water, but the water is green now, and there's all kinds like mosquito larvae and Daphne in them. And I've been scooping them out and feeding them to some of my darter fish and stuff.
Hi.
That's awesome.
Hola.
Yeah, that's the thing is you don't even necessarily have to do. Sorry, I panicked because I thought I'd set that water change up over there on the fry. I didn't, so everything's okay. But you don't even have to do them inside. You can literally just have a bucket outside. It's super simple. Gina's not getting it. There. She's like, no, go away. Yeah, a lot of stuff you don't have to even fool with going high tech.
So, Gina, what have you done today? Did you go to work?
No, I was off today.
That's it.
I didn't do diddly squat until about an hour ago. I decided to cut back some of the plants on my shrimp tank. My lily, my dwarf lily that I got from the co-op was getting out of control. I pulled probably a good 40% of it out, and then changed out the Mopani wood that I had in there with the ghost wood I got at the crown, because the Mopani was tanking my pH. Despite me adding pH booster. Yeah. Trying to get the pH stable, and then I'm going to try to get some shrimp from Lady Diana.
Nice.
I bought this today for $1.
Oh my God. What is it? Is it just like a wall decoration?
I think it's a wall decoration, but I'm going to use it as a giant coaster.
Nice.
I bought 2 of them.
I was kind of hoping it was a notepad like this. That would be really cool.
Yeah, it's like cork.
Oh. Oh, yeah, it's a little cork board, isn't it? Or is it?
Oh, I bet people are supposed to put tacks in his mouth.
Yeah.
Well, not me. I'm going to put drinks on him.
There you go.
Hey, we're the same, right?
How was the Mexican? Oh, yeah. I said on my stream earlier that I was going out for Mexican. It was good. So the second restaurant we forgot is in kind of the same shopping center, just on the other side. So it was closed due to the flooding. So we had to go to a third restaurant, Mexican restaurant. But it was really good. They
Which
apparently
one?
got Ruiz.
Okay.
On yep. They got flooded too, but they had their outdoor seating open, so we sat outside.
Wow.
They were smart about it.
What's up, Garcia?
Garcia.
It's funny because you're talking about Mexican food, and there's a restaurant here. It's like a kind of like a chain thing, but it's it's a Mexican restaurant, and it's called Garcia's.
Oh.
Yeah, I had the taco salad, and Nathan got the chimichanga. It was really good.
Nice.
Fantastic Freaks been a member for 25 months. Not only that, but on the Team Snowball level.
Oh
So
my
I
God.
presume that's Guppy Fry. Hope y'all are having a good night, James, Ed, Sarah, Kenny. Having a great night, my friend. I hope you're having a wonderful night as well. And thank you for the support using that membership milestone super chat. There's another.
Yeah.
Other was Delilah Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kitty.
Oh, I was just gonna say I just finished editing a video that I just posted, so that's what I was up to. But
We can get the mods. I try not to overwork them. They do enough of that to themselves. We'll get the mods to drop a link for that so people can check. Oh, there we go.
no, it's just an unboxing video. I got some new fish yesterday in the mail. I filmed an unboxing and stuff, so that was
Yeah, I
fun.
enjoy those. It's like watching
Yeah.
Christmas, you know.
Yeah, I love getting fish in the mail. It's awesome.
Definitely.
Well, I had a box opening today. Let's see. I'll just show you what the box looks like.
My unboxing
What-
will be tomorrow.
Look at the box.
Ooh.
It's so bizarre.
Now, can you tell
It's
me
like
whose head you're
completely
going to be pulling
coated-
out of it?
I'm not going to say what head I'm going to pull out of it.
What's
But-
in the
well, that's
box?
all you get. But this guy was in it. Oh, this guy was in it. Kenny sent me this guy. It's a creature from the Black Lagoon. When I was a child, this was
I'm
the
pretty sure that hooks
greatest
up to
ornament
bubbling.
Yep. Well, look, I haven't unwrapped his stomach yet, but they got his tube like going up between his legs and up, wrapped with him. But it even came with a whole bunch. They like sent me a bunch of hose, but it's all
Oh, nice.
tightly wound, so I don't know how good it'll be.
Yeah.
But wow, so awesome, man! I used to just sit and stare at that thing for hours.
Well, I'm glad you like it.
So cool. And I'm going to make a tank for it to go right here because Nico never jumps up here anymore. So we're going to put a tank right there for it.
Nice.
It'll be a cold water tank.
You got to get like a little boat floating in it, like the boat that he like attacked when he in the movie. I forget like what it looked
Yeah.
like, but
I was thinking about maybe half-eaten manatees
yeah.
because like I've been to like where they made
them
the
out of some
movie.
Sculpey.
What's that?
Make them out of Sculpey.
Yeah, that would be neat. And but I went there to see it, and you get to go see the manatees in that stream too. And
Oh,
there's
they-
also gators all over it too, but you get to swim right with them all.
Yeah, there used to be this when I was younger. There used to be this like comic book store down in like downtown Schenectady, and they had a lot of movie props in there too. And one of the things they had was like one of the screen tested creature, the Black Lagoon costumes with the mask and everything. But it, I'm pretty sure it caught fire. Like, yeah, I mean, this is years and years ago, but the guy lost everything that was in there.
I almost bought one. The guy was it was back in the 90s in South County in St. Louis. The guy who like ran all the the Halloween shops at that time, he had a life-size one and he'd had it for years. So we put a sale on it, and I think it was $1,800, and I almost bought it. But I heard that they're rubber and they're all falling apart now.
Yeah,
So I would have just been really sad. And it was just so big. I mean, what am I going to do with it? Because its arms are like, they had its arms up in the air. I bet if you pulled it down, it probably made wrinkles in him. But his back, it went way out in the back where the air tanks would go for him to breathe.
yeah,
So cool. Gosh, I love that
that's
movie.
cool though.
Oh, there we go. Delilah's Critters said, I have to say I'm very impressed with my current USA Freshwater Pro Plus. Does everything including laundry light. I unplugged it after 3 years due to algae, turned it on tonight, and the timer is still on point. So yeah, Current USA, they're one that I was using back when I was reef keeping 15 years ago, back before LEDs were really a thing. Back when if you wanted to do a reef in a 220, you had to drop $2,000 on a light, and it was full of T5s and metal halides that had ballast the size of an Xbox. And that really good
couple
lights.
of
I've still got. Yeah, I mean, I traded one off for. I traded off like a $1,400 value used when I got rid of the
Ooh.
72-inch one. But I've still got a 4-foot one, and that sucker's rusted and cracked and all sorts of busted. I've loaned it out to people to use it, and it still runs like a champ. The only thing that happened was one of those. It's got 2 different power switches. You could run your blue lights on one and your other bulbs on the other.
Yeah.
Is I had to wire past one of the switches where they're rusted out, so they're all in one switch. But it's still the current USA's run like forever.
Yeah, I think what I had a 180 gallon bow front reef tank, and I had one of the 72-inch current USA metal halide T5 lights on there. And I remember one time I was doing a water change, and like my arms were wet, and I had my arm in the tank, and my arm touched the metal light fixture, like the outside housing, and I got freaking electrocuted.
Yeah, that's sorry to laugh. I've done that myself. Is why I'm laughing, because I knew exactly where you were going. That's not fun. It's not fun at all. Those you really wanted to run a grounding probe.
Yeah,
but it's funny how the hobby changes. And
that thing grew corals like nobody's business, though.
Yeah. Yeah, some people still run hybrid lights.
Yeah.
But not as
I guess it's kind of like you get the old guard in freshwater too. That is still like, been doing it this way for 30 years. I'm not going to change type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just sucks because they get really cranky whenever we don't have their stuff anymore, and it's like, sorry, everyone's moving to LED, and they're like, brr, brr, brr. Yeah, exactly. I've done this for so long, I'm not changing. Brr, brr, brr. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I can't get it anymore.
Yeah. Like try Amazon or eBay.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
They
It's
bring
about
like,
the
we don't want to
interface.
use a computer.
Right. I've got to say, it threw me off when I was getting back into saltwater, and then Ed decided he was going to set up a saltwater tank, and somebody's like, "Don't forget a heater." And it's like, they said I need to buy a heater while I'm here. I'm like, what? No, you don't need a heater, because I'm from the day of you use chillers because of the lighting, because there was so much heat. You needed a chiller if you were going to run big lights, big tanks. And then I'm standing there in the pet store thinking, I'm like, why would you need? I'm like, oh, LEDs, you don't have temperature increase, so you have to heat them. That makes sense. But it just kind of showed how things do progress, and how if you're out of the loop for a while, sometimes you have to relearn stuff.
I've had like 3 people in the last week come in, and yeah, same thing. They're like, oh, I've been out of the hobby for like 10 years and I want to get back into it. I'm like, well, just in the last 10 years, it's changed a lot. Like, a lot. Oh, really? And then, yeah, we go over the lights, we go over Apex, we go over like everything. Like, oh my God, it's crazy.
That's like my
more affordable.
Yeah, my 265 reef. I had a full Apex system on it.
Sorry, what was that, Kenny?
I was just saying, my 265 gallon reef tank, I had a full Apex system on that, and it was awesome. All the text message alerts and stuff, and everything, and like the fact that I can just control everything from my phone pretty much. And
oh, it's so nice. We could have a maintenance customer call, and they're like, hey, I don't know if this is working, and we just log into it on our computer, and we can check. Oh, well, here, let me reset it for you. We turn it off, turn it back on. Okay, yeah, now it's working. Okay, cool, bye. Click.
Nice.
Yeah.
Look, Dr. Anthony. I'm
Yeah,
making
go.
a fancy.
Was that a Pico oven mitt that you had?
Fish. A really bug-dyed guppy.
Right. Mexican.
Hey.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, hey there.
How you guys doing?
What's up?
Great.
A lot of people are getting into nanos right now, though, nano saltwater tanks. And we try to have a wide variety of fish. So we try to have a lot of nano fish, but a lot of people, they initially come in, oh, yeah, I just want a 20 gallon. I want a pair of clowns. And we're like, that's cool and all. You can have 2 clowns, or you could have like 20 of these nano fish. And they're like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, have a whole ecosystem in there.
Yeah, I had the 15 gallon nano reef, and that thing was pretty awesome.
Yep.
And it was so much easier though, because like I just did a 5-gallon water change weekly, and it's like, it's a 30% water change.
Yep.
And then like I had, I think 10 different SPS in there, and I had like 40 different zoanthids and a couple euphyllias, some torches. It was pretty nice.
I bet you didn't have to deal with the dosing or anything because all those
Nope.
water changes you did every week.
Yeah, no, it was super simple, and I didn't even have a skimmer on it. I had a AquaClear 70 hang-on back filter with just biomedia in it.
Yeah, we always tell people that to come in. They're like, "Oh, I need a hang on the back filter." We're like, "Do you have a nano?" And they're like, "Yeah." It's like, you don't need a skimmer if you're doing regular water changes. Just do your weekly water change. You don't need a skimmer.
5 gallons a week is all I did, and it ran so nice for a while.
They're like,
But then
"Oh, really?"
I just started not paying attention to it because, again, like it was upstairs and I had more tanks downstairs, and I'm like, before this gets bad, I'm just gonna sell it off to somebody.
Yeah.
I had probably $3,000 in coral in this little 15-gallon tank.
It adds up quick.
Yeah.
What's the average water change on a 50-gallon saltwater per week?
Usually 10 to 20%.
Yeah.
More frequent small water changes are better than less frequent big water changes
Right.
because you want to maintain that stability.
What is good? Got up there.
Here's a short I did of a micro tank.
Is that yours, Ed?
No, this one was at Aquashella.
Oh, okay.
That's the little world.
Look at how little it ends up being. It's about the size of a $1 bill.
Oh, wow.
And it costs
yeah, I've
like
seen
$800.
They call those micro tanks. Yeah,
I've seen like
Yeah,
YouTube
micro reef.
YouTube shorts or something about those little tiny things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
my God.
I've got a question
Yep.
and a comment for Gina, and then we'll get over to Mexicali here.
Yeah.
My question is, do you see a lot of people coming, like maybe from the fresh converting to salt, that you have to explain the difference between a surface skimming filter and a protein skimmer? Because I know a lot of times they're both just referenced as skimmers, and people will get confused. You go, oh, the title, the title's a protein skimmer. I'm like, no, it's a surface skimmer, but it is a good, it's a good filter. But
I actually don't have to explain the difference between a lot of those because I don't even think a lot of the freshies that come in, that's what we call them. We call you guys freshies.
Aw.
A lot of the freshies that come in are still kind of beginner/novice, even in the freshwater. So they don't even use surface skimmers or don't even know what a surface skimmer is. I've never actually had anybody ask me the difference. I'm sure they are asked, but it's probably more for like the maintenance people. I just run the store.
Although surface skimmer does technically skim protein off of the surface of water.
Yeah.
So
technically, yeah. No, you're right. It technically does. And my comment was just, I want to do a saltwater nano, but I want to do just a macro algae scape. I saw a local fish store. I can't remember where because we travel so much, and it was just a little, fluval spec 5-gallon, but it was just a gorgeous macro algae salt. I fell in love with it.
Yep.
Yeah, those planted saltwater tanks are awesome.
That's what I kind of plan on doing with my 20-gallon. That Brennan and I are going to do a project. He's going to set up a 55. I'm going to set up a 20 side by side, just budget saltwater. And that's kind of what I plan on doing. I plan on doing a seahorse tank and having a bunch of macro algae in it. Probably some sponges also for hitches for the seahorses. But yeah, a lot of macro for nutrient export. Since I'm going to use I might be using one of the Shark Pros. I'm going to upgrade one of the ones in my 120 with my black belt cichlid and then take that one and put it probably in the saltwater tank.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, I was gonna ask that too. Never mind. Go ahead. Go for it.
I was feeling like Mexicali talk some,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
tell
no,
us
not at
about your
all.
work.
I was just listening. I was listening to everybody else, but yeah, I'm actually here at work right now, but I'm working graveyard and I'm the only one in the building. So it's just physically me. There's some other stuff that you usually see around here at night, but that's, whatever. As long as they stay on their side of the building, I'm good.
That doesn't sound very safe.
They're not going to do anything to me. They're not physically here.
No, I meant you being the only one in the building.
Oh, it's not a problem. I'm out on the Colorado River, so there's nobody out here other than us, the employees. So it's no big deal. But no, it's just I've been wanting to have an opportunity to get to meet Ed personally and James, and this opportunity came up, and it was too good to pass up.
That's awesome.
I've been following you guys for a while.
Oh, magic.
I've been following you guys for a while, even before I was Mexicali Fish Keeper. So I used to follow you guys under my regular name and watch a lot of your guys' streams. So it used to be under George Sanchez. If you go back, you guys will probably see it on some of your old streams. But it's just a great opportunity to be able to come up here and chat with you guys. So
that's why I hopped.
Yep.
I really appreciate it.
I was about to go to bed, and I saw that they was live with an open panel. I'm like, fuck.
You got to jump on
Alright,
that.
another hour.
Haven't done that in a while. And kudos to Ed because it was his idea.
Yeah, it's currently 1:08 in the morning here.
Yeah, it's 12:08 here. Delilah asked, "Is there a fish fan romance afoot?"
You never know in this group.
Bromance or romance?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I missed Misfit earlier while I was on my phone using that membership milestone super chat. Been a member for 12 months. YouTube has this stupid thing where a lot of times on the user end it'll show you it's 7 months, which is what Misfit's referring to. It says, dang, 7 months. Thought it was a bit longer, but hey, it is this 12 months. So any day now you should pop up that little 1 year badge. It should switch over from that purple fish to the new 1 year badge. So thank you, Misfit. Congrats on the new badge. That was the word from our sponsors. Let's see, from the chat here, while we've got all these awesome people, let's see, Delilah said, the one I got does the lightning breaks and cloud cover, sunset vibes. It's wild. I haven't used those features in a long time, but they really are incredible. They are, and I want y'all's opinions as well. I'll be selfish and go first. I'm not a huge fan of those. I've got a Flugel that has a bunch of that stuff. And while I might run that, say, like what if I intend to get back into breeding red bellies, and I use a lot of nature indicators like, barometric pressure and the rainy season and all that, that would be an instance I would use that in. Other than that, like I pushed the rainstorm yesterday on the one that I do have on a 75 gallon. It just scared the crap out of everything. Like my catfish took off and smashed its face into the glass. The little bumblebee cats freaked out. The exodons are like, what is going on here? And then you get into the whole side thing about how long do fish maintain stress enzymes within themselves. Studies have shown that a fish that's been netted can retain some of those stress, hormones, enzymes, whatever. It's too late for sciencey words here. For me anyways, can retain that stress in the body for like 28 days after being netted. So, they're cool, but I would only use them under certain circumstances. That's my thoughts. On to the panel.
Yeah, so I actually asked my boss about it. I know I was talking about him earlier about him being an arrogant jerk, but he is super smart. Brennan! I actually asked him. I was like, okay, so you know how some of those LED lights have like that thunderstorm function? Is that just a bunch of hokey nonsense, or is there a purpose to it? And he goes, technically, it is meant to trigger certain behaviors in some fish, but those behaviors aren't triggered by lights. They're triggered by barometric pressure or other weather factors, not the light. So yes, it's a bunch of hokey nonsense. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
I actually have my bioactive vivarium for my Chihuahua gecko. I've got two of the current USA outer orbits. I think they are the 18-inch ones, and I've also got two compact fluorescent grow lights in there. But that whole system is run off a Raspberry Pi that I have also linked up to some active weather services. So like when it's raining and thunder and lightning outside, it's actually doing it in the vivarium as well. Like the
Neat.
lights will switch over to the lightning storm if it's storming outside, and my misters and my fans will turn on and everything. So like it mimics the active weather conditions outside. So along with the barometric pressure changes from the outside weather conditions, I'm also getting to watch like this mini thunderstorm inside my vivarium.
Now that's
Pretty
cool.
rad.
That's really cool. That makes sense.
Very smart. Welcome, Misfit and Fantastic. Appreciate y'all hopping up here.
Hi, guys.
It's a party now.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
drawing, so that's why I'm muting myself.
But that
Oh.
takes away the fun there, Ed. You're the liveliest one of us all here.
Hey, it's not the only thing it takes away. It takes away a headache, too. No.
Right. So now's the time I should ask the question for Ed that was posted in the chat, right? All right, let me roll down through here. Oh, one thing I was going to say, I guess I have to not turn on, the magic trick. One thing I do recommend, like even though my phone's got a macro lens built in, if you're trying to get shots, I got one of these little Orphec kits, and it's got the reef lenses and all of that. And this thing was $20 at one of the Aquashellas through saltwater aquariums, freshwater aquariums. Yeah, there you go. These little lenses, I mean, not just for corals. There you go. There's another one.
I
Not
don't
just
have
corals,
any
but
for
shit.
lenses, but I have ones that look like little credit cards, the same size as a
Nice
credit
and
card and
powerful.
everything, but they're different viewing
Yeah.
lenses for looking at saltwater. Fit in your wallet. That's what I carry around with me.
This is a wide lens that you can put onto it and then put the filters underneath it.
Because people can say what they want about cell phone footage, but I'm sorry, if you're filming a macro video in 8K, you're not gonna you can't say, oh, it was filmed on a phone, it's junk, dude. It's 8K and it's macro. I mean, come on, there are a lot of digitals that aren't messing with that. It's not without a lot of money invested.
Oh my gosh. So I have a door garden that's going to go up on Skipper's auction this Saturday. And I took all the photos with my phone with just not even the wide angle lens, but just the orange and the white, yellow lens. And my pictures are awesome. I didn't like mess with the contrast or anything on them. You'll see on Saturday when it goes up. But I was looking at our distributor list at what different corals they had, and they had the same pink, what are they called? Pink diamond zoas. Their picture was shit. And I was like, I took my photo with my cell phone with an orange yellow lens, and mine looks 10 times better. Like, and it's a big company. They're using some fancy camera. I didn't understand it.
Here's my macro lens and my wide angle lens.
Yep.
But that's for
y'all
my
are
camera.
even fancier. Yours are fancier than mine.
Oh, for your big
Ice
fence?
Cap. Ice
Yeah,
Cap makes my my hydrometer.
Yep. Yeah, I actually don't. I can't find this anymore. I think they stopped making it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all different levels. You can kind of like with the streaming stuff. They're all different levels, price points you can get into it at. Even if nothing else, I have bought some halfway decent macro lens sets from the dollar store. $5 for a little kit, and I'm like, it's not as good as this Orphic one, which was $20, which is probably not as good as your Ice Cap, which was X amount of dollars. But still, there's a starting point for everybody to start playing with things.
Mm-hmm.
BRS had a sale going on that if you spent a certain amount off. I think I ended up paying like $35 for this.
I was on BRS's website yesterday after I got off of work. I am so tempted of pulling the trigger on one of those glass reef ready. I was AF. Was it Aquatic Forest, I think? Yeah,
Sounds
I think
like
it's
it.
Aquatic Forest. and they make some reef-ready tanks. And I've been looking at a 6-footer at it's like 190 some gallon tank, 6 foot long.
Do it.
Mm, that sounds
With the
fun, Terry.
What's that?
So this sounds really fun.
Do it.
Yeah. Except I'm going to be paying like $100 a month for the rest of my life.
Hey,
Do it.
Pay for it.
sure you can make bigger payments than that, but
Well,
Yeah.
no.
Small price to pay.
All right. So I'm gonna
Hey, we
grab a
got
couple
James on
things.
camera. Here we go.
Yeah, a couple things from chat. Well, of course, Ed just walked away. Zen, I will ask him the question eventually, though. At this point, you might just want to send him a message on Facebook. But there were a couple other highlighted things, and then we're going to get over here to Terry and say hello. We got Fantastic back as well. Let me find it. Scroll down through here.
Came back after I was
highlighted
tearing down
thing.
the stream at the only vertical camera earlier.
Oh yeah. Well, and can I just say thank you to all of you all, and it shows the professionalism in everybody here, because I have a personal rule of no more than 4 people up at a time, just because 99% of streams that go multi-panel, it's a cluster and everybody's talking over everyone. But everybody here has been extremely professional and courteous and understands kind of how streaming works. So kudos and thank you to all of you all.
of course.
Alex Kumanoff said, "Are you any closer to getting your property? Fisherman Fever. Buy land, they ain't making no more or any more of it." Will Rogers. So, quick update on that. I am a co-owner of 25 acres of property in Maynardville, Tennessee. Out of that, I will carve my own individual chunk that is solely mine. But the way that's set up, basically that land. That land is mine and my family's in perpetuity, since I don't get to use that very often. So that's always going to be there to pass down. But there's been a slight snag in terms, again, like I mentioned, I'm broke. I ain't got money to buy this stuff. I'm great. People see all of this and they go, oh, I've been showing the fish tanks. You're rich. No, I just make bad decisions. That's why I've got so many tanks. On the investment side of it, there's been a slight snag and some money has hit probate due to a death in a family. So that has kind of held things back a little bit. Also, there are 3 mobile homes on the property already that have renters. So we inherited some renters. So there's the legal aspect of clearing those properties out and making them available. So like right now, we moved my mom up first because she needed to move out of her house because she's going to sell her house. So she got the first one that we got cleared out. I'm going to be moving into probably the next one, and then we'll have either a third one, or I'll move this one since I own the one that I'm in, or if all 3 of them stay there, I may sell this one. I don't know just yet. It's tricky, but the property's there. I have my name on it. That can't change. And then looking at where to locate the new fish room build. I think we're looking at like a 20 by 50 on that. So that's going to be awesome. And I may put it kind of right up at the front of the property. Just that way, my dream would be, a couple years from now, that say Aquaticon in Knoxville, Tennessee, people come into town to do that. Y'all want to come on up to the fish room, have it where it's easy. People get on the property. It's right there. Come do tours and hang out. And, I'm going to sell fish online, but if I eventually decide to start selling like on a Craigslist or something, because there's no LFS that I'd be competing with, I could have people come up maybe and not be so scared of doing that. Well, I'm not really scared, but, not be like, hey, come on to my property back here in the woods and drive 5 miles down this gravel road here past these trees.
Right.
We'll sell you in some fish. But there we go. Yes, things are going good, Allie. Yeah, exactly. I appreciate you asking. Let's get over here to Terry, who's been patiently waiting silently as to not to interrupt. Terry, how are you doing?
Not too bad, man. Long time no talk to. How you guys been?
Hi, Terry.
What's going on, Ed?
I ran to get a Earnhardt flag when I saw you came up, and then I can't find it. I had it yesterday. Okay, I'll let you talk. Sorry.
No, I don't have much going on. I took a chance on buying a lionfish to put in with my Tessellata moray eel. And so far, he hasn't eaten them, so that's a good thing.
What
Yeah.
kind of lionfish?
Hey, it's a Bolton.
Bolton.
Voltan.
Voltron.
Oh my God, why am I big? Don't make me big.
Because you've got fish tanks behind you. You've got a wall of fish tanks. I had to make it big.
Sorta. They're sort of fish tanks.
Sort of.
They're algae tanks right now. That's what they are.
I had to peek. You
Yeah.
know, I had to get a peek at that.
Is a green water tank?
Yeah, actually, the water in quite a few of them are clear. It's just algae on the glass. I've been working an awful lot, and I haven't done any maintenance. So
Hey, that's fine.
algae
Nothing wrong
doesn't,
with algae.
algae doesn't hurt your tank. It just makes them unsightly.
I think algae looks great.
Mm-hmm. I like when you get a nice thick, like half-inch to an inch thick hair algae wall in the back tank. It's just a carpet going across the whole thing. You can see the water moving up against it, fish going by. It's awesome.
You guys ever have clownfish host hair algae? It's the most hilarious thing ever.
Do what?
You ever have clownfish host hair algae, like a big clump of hair algae, and you go to pull it out and they're just attacking the crap out of your hand because they're hosting it?
It's like
That's
that's
kinda
my
funny.
hair algae.
Yeah.
I've seen them do it to Kato.
Yeah. Stupid fish.
Real quick, PJ Palmer, thank you. So James dropping by to say hi. I'll try to listen to this later. Sounds very interesting and full of info. Y'all take care and have a great weekend. You too. Very much appreciate you stopping by and hope things go well for you.
PJ.
Take it easy.
Can I ask Gina a question?
Yeah.
When did we start using skimmers as a term instead of foam fractionators?
That's
Is
a
it
question
just
for
because it's a cooler name?
I feel like that has caught on more with the whole interwebs YouTube thing. But yeah, because back in my day, you're exactly right. You know, it wasn't a skimmer. And I think part of that has come from you really didn't see a lot of freshwater filters back then. Shut up, Ed. I'm just kidding, buddy. I saw him look up like, oh, my mic's on. He likes to do that. The people think he's nice, but you got to remember he was a shop steward and a hockey coach. He's mean a lot when y'all aren't looking. He does mean
I
stuff.
know you talk a lot when you're starting to talk.
Exactly. But I think a lot of it also came into play around the time where you started to see more freshwater filters or freshwater marketed filters that were doing the surface skimming. And then people did, because I've had people say, oh, well, because we do the simple saltwater, not nearly enough. We do the simple saltwater series, and I have had people ask or comment even, not so much ask, just say, hey, my title, that's the example that was used, my title has a skimmer, so I don't need a protein skimmer. And I'm like, no, that's a different skimmer. So I think that has interplayed a little bit as well. So I don't know exactly where it started. Because again, I was out of the hobby for some years. But I noticed when I came back, that was one of the things that was like, okay, freshwater surface skimmers are a thing. And there's been some confusion that I've noted from some people that know nothing about switching over to salt that are trying to learn. And there's been clarification needed. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong there. From my understanding, a lot of it has to do with over the time of everything being more commercialized and consumer available. It's kind of evolved into that. But on top of that, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it actually is kind of skimming the proteins out of the water. You kind of do the same thing in a way with a lot of other different chemicals and stuff like that. It's technically a form of skimming, but it's also fractionation is a more politically or scientifically correct way to put it.
Well, it explained the difference because in a freshwater tank, you cannot do foam fractionation, where in a saltwater tank, you can. Now, we all know proteins are attracted to the slime layer where air meets water. So technically it's a skimmer, but it's a foam fractionator on the saltwater side because that The foam fractionation is what makes it go up into the collection cup,
Mhm.
where you don't have that surface skimming in a freshwater tank. And I think that's why the confusion, because they're both called skimmers now, that the confusion gets kind of, once in a saltwater tank, once it's in the cup, it's out of your water column. Whereas in surface skimming, unless you're doing, like Misfits said, some kind of chemical reagent or, something, some type of media to remove it, and you may not even be removing it, you're just locking it up, but it's still in your water column until you physically remove that media. If that made any sense.
And another problem I think would be a lot of people who get comfortable using, the terms protein skimmer and surface skimmer don't really specify between the two either when they're trying to explain to people, because they're trying to hurry up and explain to people. So they're going, hey, you're going to need a skimmer, you're going to need this, you know what I mean? They don't really kind of specify entirely too much on it as well, I've noticed.
Well, and I want to prove a point that Misfit elaborated on much deeper than I did. So let's say if I'm going shopping here, let me share screen. So I just did this a second ago. Let's go shopping for and I did foam fractionator too, but a protein fractionator as well. So let's find my tab there. StreamYard. Okay, so it is sharing it. Those are our shopping results. Yeah, there's some stuff on there, but not really what we're looking for. There are one or two aquarists like, okay, I'm setting up a tank, whatever. You stop that and pull up this. I'll leave Studio. Edge and share. Like you mentioned, a huge difference there in the branding and marketing. If you're going to buy one, I mean, the protein skimmer is what pulls up essentially all the things, if you will, if I'm new and trying to get into doing it. So very good point you had there.
Yep, and there's all sorts of different kinds. There's hang on the backs, there's in sumps, there's in tanks, there's all sorts of different kinds.
They all stink though.
Oh my
There's
god!
a couple that I really like, but yeah.
Protein skimmer smell is a special smell.
The first pet shop I worked at that had a saltwater setup, I was so interested in the sump, and the very first thing I did was mess around with the protein skimmer, and I lifted the cover off that cup, and I was like, yep, never gonna do that again.
Oh yeah. Try cleaning the big ones at aquariums and zoos and stuff. Funky, bro. You're not talking about just a cup or two, you're talking about gallons.
Right.
Yeah, my 265, I had it was a Diablo XS 350, so it's like a protein skimmer the size of a 5-gallon bucket.
Yep.
And it's got a sizable cup. And I remember one time I was going to dump it because at that time I didn't have a hose hooked up for the automatic drain on it and stuff. So I went to take the cup out, and as I'm pulling it towards me, it caught the rim of my sump. And I freaking dumped half of the cup all over like my shirt and my pants. It was so disgusting. I couldn't get that smell off me for days.
Soaks right into your skin.
You know what did it for me when I finally learned how a foam fractionator works? And I started watching like TV shows like Baywatch and stuff. You see all those waves crashing into the beach, and I'm like, that's Mother Nature's freaking protein skimmer. You're swimming in the protein cup.
Yep.
You're not
Sea
wrong.
foam, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like the worst place to swim, man.
Yep.
Sorry.
Bad things. I remember being a kid on the beach, like running around and like kicking the sea foam that was up on the shore, and like looking back, I'm like, oh no, that was. So I do want to pose this question since we have the whole panel here now. Xanadu asks, says, did I miss your answer on the water company crap that's making my water cloudy and foamy? What to do? So I kind of answered with a non-answer, Xanadu. But for anybody that missed it, he pretty much summed up there. His water is now getting cloudy and foamy at the surface. Any thoughts in what to do about it?
Not quite sure what would be causing that, but I would try first running it through a carbon block filter.
Yeah, my guess would be excess protein waste in the water column and having more aeration or water or surface disturbance that's causing that protein to build up in the surface
Mm-hmm. That too.
in the form of foam.
I think it could be a buildup of organics of some kind. I really do like the the carbon black. You can do those, like, you can buy them at Menards, Home Depot, that thing where you can get a sediment filter and a carbon black filter, for not that much money, and see if that solves the issue. But in the long run, if you're really going to get into it, especially the saltwater side, that's why we have RO units.
Yeah. Which, shout out to New Aqua, who sent me an RODI unit. I still need to do that video.
Nice.
Got a couple of others ahead of it.
Yeah, definitely
which-
check your ammonia. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, definitely check your money. Absolutely. No, I think those are all good points that were a little bit more elaborative than my initial response. 100%. I have a question for Gina and others as well, if you all know, because we were talking BRS, and this is where it popped into my head, and then I lost it because that's what I do. They have a unit, Bulk Reef Supply does. It's a 150 gallon per day upgrade, which is basically a second RO membrane that piggybacks on top of your initial one, to change it from a 75 GPD gallon per day to 150 gallon per day, and also decrease the wastewater. Do you happen to know if and how well those truly work, or is that another marketing scheme?
I do not, but I can ask my boss tomorrow. He would be the one to know, because I don't do the installs, and I've just started at this LFS like 4 months ago, so I'm still learning all the product and everything. But I could definitely reach out to him. He's got COVID right now; he won't be in the store, but I could check him in the morning.
Don't reach anywhere near them.
In my experience, they work pretty well. But you have to remember that you're also going to burn through your filter cartridges a lot quicker. And is it an actual upgrade, or is it just a booster pump?
No, it's not a booster pump. It is quite literally a secondary RO membrane canister and whole thing.
Does it have 1, 2, 3, or 4 part compartments?
It's just a singular
RO
compartment.
So, yeah.
So I've got my first stage.
If it's boosting it from 75 to 156, then it's definitely got some sort of way to increase the water pressure, whether it be a pump or some sort of valve. But yeah, it's pretty much turning that from what I don't know what the current RO system it is now, from like a 4 to a 5 stage, or so on and so forth.
Well, the stages just means how many different reactors you have in your unit.
I'm just saying it's turning it into
correct
more.
BRS, if you go through their archives, I'll try to find it, Fish Room Fever, so I'll send you the link. BRS actually did 2 videos on whether it's better to run like 2 RO membranes in series or run them in parallel, and basically the entire gist I got out of it is it depends on your application and how much water you need and how bad your water is, and there is different ways to manipulate your output to be more efficient by putting 2 membranes in parallel or putting 2 membranes in series with each other. Mm-hmm. And again, it depends on your water source, and it depends on your output demands. And they did, and honest to God, it was like an hour-long freaking video where they tested all this stuff out, where they put those membranes in series, and they checked, you know, your what's the meter, TDS,
Yeah.
you know, and it was a very interesting, eye-opening video to watch. It really was.
I think I might have seen that because I do watch a lot of their RODI stuff. And that may be where they kind of developed their quote unquote kit from, because it comes with all the tubing and splitters and how they want you to hook it up. I will say, back to Misfit's point, they are putting off the water pressure on you, though. It doesn't include the pump or anything to up your pressure. It's just kind of like, hey, you know, you can run this in line. It hooks up with a couple of shark bites and you're done. The thing that really was alluring to me was how much it was supposed to cut down on wastewater. That's why I was curious, because
that was the other.
I
forgot about that.
Is it a little blue tube? Looks like 6-7 inches long with some red, white, and blue hosing and another white capsule behind it and some clips. Is that what you're looking at?
Yes. I can pull it up real quick and show you exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, everything that I saw from them talking about it looked great, but again, it's their product, so I always kind of try and get a secondary, consumer level opinion. Spotlight on the.
Sounds like it's just refiltering your wastewater.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, that's what it was supposed to be doing.
I want to say the one video specifically was about how efficient is it to run, you know, 2 in series or 2 in parallel, and that's what they actually compared was wastewater with, you know, actual water produced.
I've seen that one. I really do, because they do a lot of fun stuff like that where they'll flip things around and go, well, what if we do it this way? And what if we do it this way? And why is this working better? Here we go. So there's the kit right there. You pop back to StreamYard. It's literally just a second RO kit with the splitters, and it comes with the little pieces there, which I'm not on the screen so you can't see where my mouse is. But it comes with, you know, the little clamps so you can clip it right on top of the RO membrane canister and everything you've got there.
Right.
But it doesn't have the additional pump and stuff. Which is a very good point, because somebody I heard was talking about, well, what if we run 4 in line? Is it going to get any better? I'm like, you're going to have so much pressure to maintain it through 4 RO membranes. It's stupid.
Yep.
I mean, not necessarily that it's stupid, but like you'd have to have a stupid amount. So good luck with that. But
yeah, those. Okay, have you ever seen? You know what the RO Buddy brand is?
I've heard of that one.
Brand of RO unit. But they kind of use like replaceable cartridges for the RO canister or for the media canisters. And those are kind of similar to that, except for you just unscrew and dump the stuff out or replace the filter that's inside of it. But yeah, it's pretty much just running the wastewater through again, essentially.
There are lots of different things.
I think so.
I'm probably killing everybody asking all those salty questions, but this is also, it could be applicable to fresh water. You know, I need this system to be able to cut water to breed my zebras, and I'm getting into I'm going to be breeding caradinas and stuff like that, so that's applicable to fresh as well.
Oh yeah.
I hate how much wastewater. I know at least on my old unit the amount of wastewater was ridiculous, and you're like, okay, I'm going to run it into the washing machine so that I'm not pouring so much down the drain, or I'm going to do this with it. Got that for Xanadu.
You could collect wastewater and use it to water your garden or house plants.
Can I ask a question about, okay, the wastewater? In where I live in a metropolitan area, and if I run an RO unit and I run that RO unit down the drain, or I run a Python and I'm running it straight into my sink with the water running, it's water I pay for, but is the water actually wasted? I mean, all it does is it goes to a water treatment plant and it gets put right back into, it gets treated and put right back into the environment. So I never understood. I mean, if you can afford it, yeah, you're wasting water in the point that, you know, you paid for that water that you just sent down the drain, and the only use you had was to send it down the drain. But the water doesn't disappear. I mean, it goes somewhere and gets treated and gets sent back into the environment to be water again. So it's not like you're hurting the environment, you're just wasting money.
You're absolutely right. And kind of what you elaborated to, though, can vary by municipality. Most water utility companies do charge your wastewater fee based off of your consumption rate and not metered wastewater. So it's kind of like one of those things, you know, if you're like when you first start out, you're like, oh, I've got to fill 2,000 gallons worth of tanks. None of that went back through their system as wastewater, but you still got charged for the $2,000 worth of wastewater because you consumed it. The only way to get around that, at least with my municipality, was to pay to have a field meter essentially put in, like for farming, and then I would have to run water through that, and then I wouldn't be charged for that agricultural meter. That's what I was looking for. I wouldn't be charged waste on it, just consumption. So yeah, if you're not paying much, that's a great point. You're not technically like burning up the world's resources, but when your water's expensive, it's like if I've got to pay a couple $100 for water, I don't want to, you know, put 4 out of 5 gallons back down the drain, you know, that I'm not.
Is that actually, just out of curiosity, what is everybody's? I pay 23 cents, and this was just a recent increase. I pay 23 cents per 1,000 gallons.
So I don't know the exact price per gallon on mine. I will tell you, without doing fish stuff, like when I was not like really doing the weekly water changes and all that, and they would just get like their once a month required type of stuff, if even that much. Just like a standard household bill for me is well over $100. So by the time you add in 10% water changes, 25% water changes on 60, 70, when I was up to 90 tanks, the water bill would kind of skyrocket. Another reason I'm glad that we're going to be on well water is I don't have to fool with all of that.
I just got
Mine's
my
not
water.
cheap.
It's kind of funny. I used 1,800 gallons, and it was $23.
I wish.
I don't get a water
Sign
bill.
up for that.
I do. Yeah, mine is almost around $100, but we have a pool, and then I got all those tanks that I need to do water changes on. So even though I don't have a lawn, I do have some desert scape. There's one mesquite tree that I need to water, but I think most of it is probably stuff from the fisheries. My dad and that swimming pool are our highest consumption of water down here. So
I have to drain my swimming pool. It fills up too much. I never put water in it.
My water bill also has my, just like you mentioned earlier, you got your sewer rate involved in that, and we also have our sanitation, our garbage, and all that stuff. It's all under one bill.
Oh, ours isn't. Sewer is included in the house, so Nathan takes care of that. And then trash is separate.
See,
Everything's separate for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sewer or wastewater per gallon costs more than my actual usage of water per gallon.
So does mine. It really does. My sewer rate is higher than my new water coming in. Like I said, it's 23 cents per 1,000 gallons, and I forget what the sewage is, but it's like 30 cents leaving. But you're sending them dirtier stuff than what they're sending you, so you got to pay more.
No, and I get it, but I also, case in point, my electric bill, it's not so bad now. It's like $300 a month, but I'm only running like 24 tanks with lighting. I'm not running 98 tanks with lighting. But back in the day, you know, when it was the big reef lights and all that, I had $1,000 electric bills.
I couldn't imagine those people running those big metal halides. Oh my God! You talk about, consumption. Those metal halides. drank electricity.
And it's not only the Halide, it's like James said earlier, you're also running that chiller also, which consumes a lot.
Yeah.
But no, that is a very good point, Terry, in terms of the waste perspective of it. You're right. It's not wasting the world's resource, but it's wasting my money, and I'm cheap.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It just, some people get confused that just because you send it down a drain or whatever, it's like, well, it's never ever going to be used again. No, it's going to wind up to a facility. It's going to get treated and it gets put back out in the wild. Be free, water.
Oh, yeah.
Be free.
Let it flow.
So I'm probably gonna hop down because if I don't, I'll be up all night.
So,
Yeah, I mean I gotta work in the morning.
Nope.
I get it.
Morning jobs.
I've got so today and tomorrow, I'm doing a load-in for Pearl Jam at the MVP Arena in Albany.
Ooh.
Wish
Yeah.
I had a cool job.
That's my second job. My normal job, I do masonry, but I
That's
called in
cool.
for my normal job.
Well, I appreciate you coming up and hanging out with us. I really do. It's been fun talking to you.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yep. But I'll see you guys later. Bye, everybody in the chat.
Have a
Bye.
good night, man.
Good night.
Hey,
We got a couple of roadie questions here. Sergey Sieber says, so what is in the wastewater and what can you use it for? I talk a lot, so anybody else want to start off with that?
Brennan,
I don't know.
it's everything that gets pulled out, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
all the extra
It
minerals.
is, yeah.
What a way to
And
beat around the
chemical.
bush there.
So if you want to get ever so slightly, but only slightly more technical, you're going to have an increased TDS because it's all the TDS that was pulled out of that water that was stripped away. You're going to see an increase in GH as well as KH also, typically speaking. So somebody did a study because they're actually using their wastewater to go into a freshwater tank, which maybe yes, maybe no. Depends on where you're at and what you're pulling. Their TDS went up, I want to say like 125, and we'll say it went up by like 50% from its original numbers. Their KH went up 15, 17%. And I may flip the GH and KH here. And then the other one went up by like 20, 25% between those two. So they looked at it and they're like, that's still within parameters that I could put into my water, even if that was straight from the tap. Because people were, I guess, hounding them in their comments about, hey, you can't run that wastewater. You're going to kill all your fish. Because they had it running in on an auto top-off system. And they're like, oh, it's not that many gallons. And here's the parameters of my wastewater. So, it's already been dechlorinated. It's ready to go in that aspect. The hardness GH, or the total dissolved solids, the TDS, GH and KH aren't out of range. So if it was tap water, it'd be acceptable ranges. So I really don't see anything wrong with it. And that was their opinion. That being said, if you've got a lot of stuff it's pulling, you could really skew your numbers ridiculously. That's just my 2 cents on my limited knowledge.
Oh, yeah, and over time, not keeping up with the filter, all that's going to raise up too.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of what it can be used for, guys, who wants to start out there?
I was muted. I had one thing to that. You both, what you said was exactly spot on. I'm not trying to change anything. I'm notorious for not talking numbers, but I'll talk about how something works. So it depends on your source water on what's going to get kicked back, and it depends on molecule size. And so basically, as you're pushing water through that RO membrane, there are going to be some things that are just too big, and they just kind of bounce off the membrane, and they wind up in your wastewater, while there'll be other oh God, I just lost the word. But there'll be other molecules that are small enough where they just get stuck. and they just stay there till you back flush the membrane back out. So it depends on your source water, on what you're gonna get. I mean, if you're like me with Lake Michigan water, your wastewater out of your RO unit's going to be horrible because you already started out with horrible. You know, but if you're ROing something out on the West Coast like what Corey has, your wastewater is going to be probably perfect for most freshwater fish.
Absolutely. I guess technically I should add piggyback onto that. I guess you could see a potential uptick in metal content, which maybe we're not measuring for / able to on an average hobbyist level. So that would be potentially one downside if you're not aware of what metals you've got.
What about
increasing
chloride?
that.
You know, things that they put in for minerals.
It'll strip a lot of it out.
I'm that because you brought up metals. All right, if we leave copper out of the equation or out of the question, I've seen tons and tons of debate about metals in a fish tank.
Yep.
What do you guys think?
Fish need copper to live too.
Well,
snails have to have
I was
copper in
gonna
their system.
kind of
It's
leave the
minute.
copper out of it, but because that can be copper can be its own conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, other than copper,
plants too, though, right?
Well, stuff like iron. A lot of plants need iron. Red plants need iron.
Yeah, depending on how fancy
A
you
lot
want
of
to
stuff
get.
like that.
even your mosses
Can
like
really
iron.
depend.
I've found.
Mm-hmm.
As a guy that really likes Rotella indica, a little bit of iron, hey, adds a nice little flair to that plant.
Well, and how many people back in the day remember when people were adding nails?
Yep, I
into
was
their
just about to
pointed
say that.
tanks? Yeah, you know that was an old school trick from way back when you actually had to be a semi-botanist to have a decent planted tank. You know.
Are you guys familiar with one of the most favorite so-called like chemical medias for removing phosphates in salt water? Is ferrous
Yeah.
oxide.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Jeff.
Yeah.
That's rust.
Yep.
It's simply rust. That's all it is. I just see
That's
so
right.
many people, they panic because, you know, a certain piece of equipment might have a metal screw in it and people lose their mind. And I'm like, yeah, you can pretty much fill your whole tank up with metal. It's probably not going to hurt your fish.
Absolutely. And a lot of like I've done some DIY hardscape and things like that, and they're like, "We used a screw. That's bad." I'm like, not that particular one. It's not got like a chemical coating or anything. It's just going to rust, which is fine. If it rusts, it is what it is.
Yeah, and all those battleships that we use for artificial reefs and stuff, it's like, come on, man.
Right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So let's see. I guess wastewater uses for the second part of that question. I know we had another question further on down. We'll get to in just a moment, folks.
Dump it on your tomatoes.
You can wash clothes with it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have fresh water. Now, I can't do that with my saltwater tank. I pour that on my driveway to kill the weeds in the cracks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very good.
I have a
point.
story, Gina. A friend of mine, the tank right over here, I got for free. It was a saltwater tank. I offered to clean it and help them sell it. They said no, we just want it gone. So we hooked my Python up to their outside spigot and ran it through it was in a bedroom, so we ran it through the bedroom window, and I drained all that salt water out of a 120-gallon tank onto their yard that divided the two houses. Yeah, dude, I don't think there's grass growing there to this day, and that was 2 years ago.
That's
Well,
fine.
yeah. Be careful with that.
It also makes it nice in the wintertime whenever I have to salt the driveway. I'm just like, nah, I'm just going to do a water change. Dump the salt down the driveway.
Absolutely. Just to clarify, though, that is your salt wastewater from your water changes, not your RODI wastewater that you're killing
No, no,
weeds
no.
with.
Yeah, no,
Correct.
that's water I take out of my saltwater tank.
Yeah, I just want to make sure people were aware, and they're like, "Well, how am I watering my plants with it, but I'm also killing weeds with it at the same time?"
No, yeah.
Last Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Glass box, I'll get right back to your question because I think we're probably going to go a little bit more in depth with it. Greg D had a quick answer question here, which is CCHEM Title 75 enough filtration for a 40-gallon breeder reef?
Reef?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, can I hear it again?
I'd go with a 110.
Yeah, I would
If it
definitely
was possible, it's only $5 or $10 more than that, and I mean, it's giving you that extra power that you're probably going to need anyways.
I could agree with that. And Terry, the question was, is the CCHEM Title 75 enough filtration for a 40-gallon breeder reef tank?
No, I agree with the panel 110.
I will say, if you've already got a Title 75, again, I'm the cheap easy guy here. If you've already got the Title 75 and you're like, hey, can I throw this thing on here versus going and buying a 110, you could probably do that and then supplement with another filtration
sponge
that
filter
you probably
even.
already have on here. Yeah, absolutely. So there's the cheapskate answer as well. But yeah, I think the 110 would be great if you're going to buy one. Like you said, not much of a price difference. If you're trying to build things out of what you got already, throw the 75 on there, add like Misfit said, even a sponge, and you should be good to go. Here's the one I think we might go off on some tangents on. Glassbox Hero says, if everyone had an RODI unit and everyone dumped their wastewater down the drain, would we eventually have the hardest water possible coming out of the tap, getting progressively harder?
No, because once it hits the treatment plants, it's remineralized and desanitized and all that nonsense.
Yep.
No, it's a very interesting question, actually. I was actually going a different route and not man-made filtration. I don't know if that would actually take out a lot of the minerals and stuff. So I could see a buildup, but I was thinking more of the natural, as some of that water eventually makes it to ground, and then those minerals get used by plants and, filtered through the aquifer, and then it, winds up pure water eventually.
Well,
That's an interesting question, though.
Even then, running through all those pipes and sitting in pipes and running through the groundwater, that's all going to change the parameters of that water going all the way through. Depending on where it's at, it could lower or raise the TDS.
I mean, if everybody had an RO unit and it all wound up in the Mississippi River, into the Gulf of Mexico, into the ocean, how many years would it take to make the ocean more, mineralized, considering it's already liquid rock? I don't know. It's an interesting question.
I think a lot of it falls back into the processing aspect of it, like Misfit was touching on. Is it going back and being recycled, reprocessed in that, or is it draining out into a waterway after it's been quote unquote purified, processed? I could see, because if you look at the fact that we all have varying TDS, that's not something that a water company is required to, for human consumption, go, oh, your TDS has to be this. So I could see the TDS aspect of that having some creep, because TDS isn't necessarily something that all of that filtration is handling. Otherwise, we would have like, all the water coming through here has been processed down from the TDS perspective for human consumption. Because like, if you look at all the things that are like, I pull up my municipality thing, look at all the stuff on there, they measure the TDS. But I don't even know that there's a quote unquote unacceptable range. I'm going to shut up and let you talk. You look like you got something to say, Misfit, and I'm going to pull up.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you.
It's in the nature of water to absorb minerals and things.
Mm-hmm.
Like
universal solvent.
Yeah, it's going to suck the stuff up, and it's not going to stay perfect.
Well, here's the thing, though. You got to remember, water evaporates. And when it evaporates, it leaves behind all the minerals. So that's part of the water cycle. So just even though, because you have hard water doesn't necessarily mean when it gets back into the cycle that it's going to continue to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because down here where I live, we have a body of water known as the Salton Sea. And it's a lake, but they call it the Salton Sea because I think it's the second saltiest body of water besides Salt Lake. And it's just from evaporation. All the runoff that we get for irrigation and stuff goes into this body of water, and it evaporates. It leaves the minerals behind, and the salt is coming from how they irrigate fields down here. They do because the ground down here it has a lot of salt in it. They'll do what they call tiles, and they'll do flood irrigation. So that leaches all those salt stuff into the water, and that goes into that big old body of water down there. And as it evaporates, it just gets saltier and saltier over years. And this is something that's been going on since the early 1900s. But it's gotten now to a point where, because it doesn't have a way to get fresh water into it, the salinity has really increased a lot. So I wouldn't be so much concerned about hardness of water because of the way the water system works. The cycle of water, when it evaporates, it leaves all those minerals behind. So that's more of water running through rivers and canals where the dissolved solids just kind of get attached to that water, and that's where you get some areas that have harder water than other. But I wouldn't be too concerned about everybody using RO systems and making your water a lot harder.
That was spot on, man. Kudos. That was a great answer.
Absolutely.
And like
So
I
I did
said,
check.
running
Go ahead.
through all the pipes, and whether it be running through, especially like running from a freshwater river into the ocean or something like that. The ocean is such a big body of water, you're not going to change that salinity with that runoff of that river, or the hardness of that water, whatever. It's just not going to happen, no matter how big that river is. If that was the case, it would happen at the Amazon first off, So I don't think it's really going to change any of that because the water volume is so large.
I'm going to
In
play
that
devil's
manner,
advocate.
but
Sorry.
going through pipes and stuff, I mean, it just it's coming out all messed up, but running through your local water pipes and everything like that, it's all gonna alter the parameters of that water, your TDS, your dissolved solids, your metals in the water, your just all of it. It's gonna alter all of it because of where it's sitting and how they process it, depending on how the process they use to do that, and where you're at, like he was saying.
Well,
Just
Flint,
ask
Michigan.
All
I'm
you got to
sorry.
do is ask Flint, Michigan.
Oh, I was going Flint, Michigan.
Dang it.
Go ahead, you do it.
Well, no, that was the problem. What I was going to get at, and what Misfit is also saying, but all our really old water pipe systems, they have evolved a crust, and that crust is inert for the most part until it gets messed with, and you wind up adding too much chlorine to a system or something to that, and that's exactly what happened to Flint, Michigan. Is they changed their water source. Their water was coming in more turbid and with more organics than what they were used to. So their first idea was, well, just shock it with a bunch of chlorine. And when they did that, they took all that old good crud that was pretty much inert that was surrounding those pipes and got rid of it all. And now they got water problems.
Good night to those that are headed out. We appreciate you being here. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment and go on a slight tangent because you all know I love to rant.
By the way,
So
sorry if
I
I
would-
made sense or not.
No, you made sense. You made complete sense. I guess my counterpoint would be what/how much are water companies actually treating to bring TDS specifically down. Now, understanding that by pulling out the metals that they do have to pull out, that of course lowers TDS automatically because it's total dissolved solids. It's everything. which is the problem with looking at TDS without knowing what you're looking at. But case in point, I pulled up my water quality report from 2021 from my municipality. I have a range or max detected for my TDS is 129 to 185. So it is a pass. That was not a violation. Their maximum acceptable pre-violation is 500. So, of course, like we said, they're going to be taking the TDS down by pulling out metals and things like that they need to pull out. But I think a lot of the minerals and things that maybe aren't being treated for or aren't being pulled out because it's not a human consumption issue could, and this is all hypothetical because we're never going to have every single person on RODI. But I think it could creep up. And if it does creep up and they're not treating to lower TDS, and my maximum acceptable for my municipality to pass a federal inspection is a 500 TDS, they're probably not going to start trying to treat that specific problem until it's getting up closer to 500 TDS, which is going to suck. Which means
or even
I'm
higher
having to go
sometimes.
through- yeah. Then I'm burning through membranes trying to bring down a 500 TDS instead of 150 TDS through that system. So
You would really hate Lake Michigan, man.
Hey, man, I live 15 minutes away from Erie. It's not any better. But hey, I found, honestly, in the hobby today, I can keep just about anything you think without any problems.
Sure.
The only time I have to worry about keeping anything is when it comes to actual 100% wild caught fish. That's when I have to start worrying about what my pH is, alkalinity, all of it, which is kind of neat.
yeah, and like I don't provide freshwater stuff. I don't worry about it. Like you said, my stuff adapts to my water or is already adapted.
Yep.
But in like breeding the zebra plecos, that's one thing in particular that I am going to cut with RO water to bring stuff down into certain requirements. Caridina shrimp, I'm going to RODI it and then remineralize it specifically for the shrimp. And then when I do saltwater, of course, I'm just going to run it straight RODI. But I mean, it's a very good point. Most stuff is acclimated to deal with a lot of different ranges. Except for some wild caught stuff. It needs a little bit more time. And most of the time, those of us that have been doing it a while, especially if we're getting wild stuff to breed, where it's one of those things, hey, you can only get wild caught. I have found like Seagrass does go through an acclimation process in their factory where they'll bring stuff in and then bump it up. But B, we've kind of gotten adapted to, well, this is a wild caught. I really just needed to get it to breed before it dies kind of situation. And that way the next generation will be a little bit hardier. And then second generation, the F2, those are the ones that are like really, really adapted to like almost anything your specific water has to throw at them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't even have any problems with, as long as it's like aquarium bred, like we're talking about, I don't have any problems keeping discus or anything like that either. Not a problem. As long as they keep their stress down. That's the biggest thing with those guys for me is keeping their stress down, and I'm good.
My LFS is not even 3 minutes away, but it's right up the road, as most of you all know. They're on a different water supply than I am. So all of their fish are sitting in different water, even though I'm a hop, skip, and a jump. When I drive a couple minutes back down the road to mine, I'm on a different municipality. And then if you go to the other side of Knoxville, they're on a different municipality there. So like Pet Supplies Plus, which is a smaller chain store, the one next to me has like the generic stock. The one that's across town, because they have water suited for it, that manager actually orders in a bunch of fancy specialty stuff because their water tolerates it. The manager on this side of town has tried, and she said it's all died out when they've ordered it. They only special order it if you pay in advance and pick it up in the bag so it doesn't touch their water.
Yeah. Here, I don't even really have to worry about that too much. I feel like I've kind of tested the water within about 45 miles of where I'm at, and it's all within about 1.5 points of pH and hardness. It's not too far off from each other, which is kind of neat.
I'd be willing to bet Misfits and Iwater is pretty doggone close.
Yeah.
It's the curse of the Midwest.
It's like 7.6 to 8.2.
Yep.
like you said, most stuff does just fine. Ed can attest to this. I have found guppies, and I think most people that do guppies are one of the crappier ones, so to speak, in terms of making adjustment. We've gotten some that are just a couple hours away from us, and just the difference from that state to this state, it's like, man, these things just fall apart in our water. Even though they're not generic store brand, they're actually really nice, high quality, good line guppies from a breeder. They still just don't tend to do well. But most fish, aside from guppies, like you said, I don't think have much, if any, problem.
I honestly think that that's true with any fish, though. If you can, because you can even take it to discus or angelfish, guppies, plecos. If you can locally source your fish from a breeder closer to your area, you're going to have a much easier time transitioning your fish than you're going to, from somebody halfway across the world.
And getting back more to the adaptability, a lot of these fish have been in the hobby for 30 plus years,
True
At this point, I even take it a step further. As long as it's aquarium bred, I don't really worry about it. If it's aquarium bred, I don't worry about it really at all. Because most of the time, as long as you're diligent with your acclimation process, I'm not saying you have to acclimate everything, but if you're that worried about it, do it. But most of the time, as long as it's aquarium bred and has been in the hobby for a while, you're not really going to have any problems.
I agree. For some reason, it was just guppies is where I'm like, they like to fall apart a lot. And that,
Yeah.
I've specialty acclimated zebra plecos and corals and all that type of stuff. So I'm familiar with all the different methods of acclimating in varying degrees. But for some reason, that one particular fish tends to have issues.
You're not the only one.
What can I keep?
I bred guppies for years, and I've had strains that that I got, and they just fell apart on me. They just do. You try to keep it to a minimum, and you'll find local breeders that you like, but you're not alone. I bet you 10-1 Stephen Kowalter, one of the best guppy breeders that sells fish on the internet. I guarantee you he's went to an auction and bought fish that just fell apart on him. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. That's one thing that I've quote unquote learned. I mean, I always knew everybody's going to kill fish, but I've listened to talks from some of like the world experts, quote unquote, on certain fish that have gone out and found species and named species of fish and stuff, and they'll be like, this whole line died out on me, and I still have no clue why it happened. It's like that's not comforting that they lost those fish, but it's comforting that even somebody that would be considered an expert and have resources. I like Dan's fish. He's said before, if he can't figure something out, he'll oftentimes send it off to the fish vet to have it checked out after it's dead. And oftentimes they can't even give him an answer, examining the corpse, if you will. So
come back inconclusive.
Yeah. Where was it? Steve-O had a question. Do I need biomedia if I'm going to try refugium, or should I put it under the filter zone?
I mean, you should always have a lot of biomedia in your quarry or your sump, whether it be live rock or actual biomedia, whatever. You should put as much of it as you can in there, really.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna hate me, but it depends on what you're trying to accomplish with your refugium. Are you using it just like a giant biofilter? Then yeah, have a biomedia in there. If you're using it as a refugium, just means it's a separated area.
Right.
If you're using it to grow plants or grow a small fish that can't live in the main tank or something like that, then you're going to have to look at it differently.
Oh, yeah. Well,
But
I
if
think
you're
well,
just
yeah.
using it as a giant biofilter, then yeah.
Well, he's been asking questions to me about that particularly over a lot of my streams and stuff, and he's trying to figure out where to put the biomedia.
Ah,
So it is a sump, and that's why I was kind of curious because it mentioned a refugium and then it mentioned a sock, which made me lean towards thinking sump. Because like to Terry's point, technically speaking, that breeder box that I have those zebra fry in, that's just a plastic. It's not in the actual water column, but I run water to it and from it. Technically, that would be considered a refugium. Where I've got that dip container sitting in there, but that's definitely not a sump. So yeah, to your point, if it's a sump, and you're going to have a refugium section in it, whether you are or not. If it's a sump system meant for filtration, like you all said, absolutely, biomedia, 100%, load that sucker up.
Yep.
And I think you're getting refugium in the main chamber for the sump mixed up because like I said, the first place that water is going to come in through is down through those filter socks.
Yeah,
and in
that's
that area
mechanical.
in there, somewhere in there, you're going to have your protein skimmer, right? And then all around that, and in the area filling it up, you're going to want all that biomedia. And then that refugium is going to be a whole separate empty chamber where you can have a little bit of substrate in there if you want, whatever. But you're going to have some sort of macroalgae or some little critters or something to eat up all the detritus and nonsense, copepods, all sorts of different stuff.
And you can put, like, I have a few live rock, pieces of live rock in my refugium.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
because
it's
how much plant I have. Yeah.
yep. Some of the different types of macroalgae and stuff that you can get need a place to hold on to like that.
Not to mention all the little critters and copepods and all that stuff you talked about. Sure.
Yep.
Right. You lined out in which those should be set up very well. Go ahead and say what you were going to say.
But yeah, all those little critters, your macroalgae stuff are what's going to be in your refugium and your refugium lawn. It can get into your main area of your sump, but where you really want it is going to be in the refugium itself where the light's at. And then after that, it's going to chamber out of that into your return chamber, which if you wanted to, you could fill with more biomedia if you really wanted to, but you need to make sure you got some room for your return pump and then back up into the tank.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing that I would add, because I have seen people do this, unfortunately, is when you put your heater in, assuming you're going to be putting your heater down in your sump, because often people do, make sure it's not in the return section of your sump, because if that thing runs dry, you can have a lot of fun with this heater sitting out of water. So that's the only thing I'd add, because you covered that really well.
Oh, yeah.
I keep mine in the first chamber.
Yeah. Well, see, a lot of people, I think, get the thought in their head that if I put this right at the return, it's going to be heating up directly before it goes into the tank. And so I get why that would, quote unquote, make sense from that perspective. But the first time you have one that runs dry in that section and you got a heater, you learn that.
Especially if it's acrylic with a titanium heater, which I've done, melts right through the freaking acrylic. Oh.
Yeah, because that's the return chamber is the chamber that gets low when your water gets low. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
don't see anything else highlighted.
Why is my discus getting black? Or dark and black?
Did Ed spray paint it with Krylon Fusion?
My guess would be stress.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends what kind of black, because if they're getting like peppery, that could just be genetics. Or you have a black background and they're trying to blend in. So it all depends on what. There's got to be other factors to consider to see why they're turning a darker color.
Yeah, from the way he stated the question.
He asked that question more than once, and I honestly have to say I wouldn't even be concerned unless I saw another issue to also be concerned about, like the fish isn't eating or the fish is hiding all the time. Well, the hiding thing can also come down to, its background. It's just not comfortable. Yeah, it's such a broad question. It's too hard to answer.
Yeah. he stated, "What do you do if discus are darkening or turning black? Well, if they're just straight, going from a normal color how they are just to a straight black, they're pretty stressed out.
It's
Some way or another. If it's just a light peppering, like Mexicali was saying, a lot of times that can be just genetics, and it's finally coloring up and popping through. It could be quite a few different things.
I don't want to be crude, but is the fish pooping normally? Is it eating normally? Is it socializing with other fish?
Mhm.
You need to know those things before you can.
Hey, Ed, how many pieces are you doing? You haven't stopped working since we started.
Yeah.
streaming.
Well, I'm almost done with this one.
Name the goldfish.
Yeah, well, it's pretty easy with these eyes and the color.
It's a black
It's like a
lure.
telescope eye
Yes,
almost.
it is.
It's a black
But-
lure goldfish.
This
Did I
is
start-
gonna, this is gonna be my clash piece.
That looked like a loach.
Yep, it's gonna be a bunch of clown loaches swimming together on this plate.
Nice.
And I've been thinking about going into my fish room and getting the dry wood, but I don't want to wake up all the fish.
Has anybody priced clown loaches lately? They're making them suckers out of gold.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I know at the Clash they were selling 2-inch clown loaches for $40 a piece.
Jesus.
Oh, wow.
Around here, they're still $10 a piece, or $10 an
Really?
inch,
I gotta
When
go
I
buy
got
some.
mine, I could buy like-
They're
or $10 an
30.
inch.
They're
So it's not
30
much
here
to-
for like 2 inchers.
not too bad.
I was like, God dang, man! I remember when they were like $8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry for the questions, but if you run a Fujium, don't you need mechanical filtration, such as sponges and stuff? Yeah, yes and no. But with all your biomedia and everything else in there, I mean, it's kind of all your mechanical filtration as well. That whole system, the whole sump itself is making your mechanical filtration.
Yeah, say the active moving water is mechanical filtration, isn't it?
Mhm.
So technically, the return pump is just mechanical filtration.
Where everything is going
Once
to
it
get
goes
caught at.
back around into the. Oh, look at Ed's got a whole thing of clown.
Hey, those are the ones that were at the Clash.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
At the Crown, Clash hasn't happened yet.
No, yeah.
Download
They may have been 2.5 inches.
But
yeah.
in the refugium, all that detritus and all that stuff, I mean, it's kind of going there for it's supposed to be get caught up in your refugium anyways. But yeah, if you wanted to filter it out and kind of polish the water with sponges and whatnot in your sump, you can certainly do that too.
So your sponges grab the big chunky stuff, and then the refugium is your nutrient export. That's what's taking out the phosphates and your nitrates.
Mhm.
Whereas they're just catching the bigger chunks.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you need.
Didn't he mention that he had filter socks? Isn't that what's doing the mechanical filtration also?
Yep, that's also
Yep.
mechanical filtration too.
So can I play devil's advocate? Sorry, my headset or my earbuds cut out, so it took me a second to get onto this. I guess the point to segue backwards would be also when you were talking about the discus stress, is you've got 2 stress factors to look at, which I know all of you know this, but for anybody listening who doesn't, which are your environmental, like you talked about, in terms of getting spooked and what's going on around them. Are they eating and stuff like that? But then also your chemicals. So like Terry pointed to, are they eating, are they pooping, and then throw in a quick water test to see what your parameters are. So if your parameters are normal, it's probably a stress that's not water quality, it's environmental, and that's as far as I'll go on that. But I did want to, here's where I'm going to be that guy. In terms of specificity, and now terminology may have changed, like Terry pointed out with the protein skimmers. But I know back in my day, because y'all are talking about refugium, the term refugium, and the bio stuff and the socks and all that. That would be inherent to a sump system, which can or can't, or doesn't have to have a refugium portion in it. Whereas a refugium would simply just be a segregated body of water, not necessarily for filtration, but simply to provide a refuge for something.
Well, it turned into the refugium section in sumps would be your nutrient outtake, where you would have macroalgae. That was your section to suck up some nitrates.
Nitrates, phosphates, particularly.
Right.
All that, like Dana had mentioned just a few minutes ago. My understanding.
It just like the protein skimmer thing. It's just that the terminology has changed over time. But you are absolutely correct. A refugium is just a refuge for whatever you want.
Because I'm one of those. If somebody said, "Hey, how do I set up a refugium?" I would be like, and I know he's talking about a sump misfit. I'm not. I'm not arguing that point because I know you know in more in depth what he's been asking you and all that stuff. But if somebody asked me, how do I set up a sump versus how do I set up a refugium, I would have two entirely different answers because the sump would be your filtration and all that and your heater space and your protein skimmer. Whereas a refugium would just be, okay, well, what are you trying to quote unquote keep safe in your refugium or accomplish with, your plant coming out? I was just curious.
And you most certainly can run just a refugium alone on a tank over just a sump, which I've seen done quite a few times.
Have you seen the people that run the refugium above the show tank?
Yeah, they grow a bunch of mangrove and all sorts of other plants and stuff out of it.
I like those a lot.
I've seen like hang on the back refugiums. My friend has one on her ATO 35 gallon. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
No, I've seen them where they've actually made like shelving above the show tank, so you're actually above your main lights and the whole thing, and they'll have a refugium with smaller lights and just different ways to do it. It looks awesome. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
It is very neat. I don't know that I've seen those. I have seen the overhead filtration setups that run off the same premise, but I've not seen anybody do a refugium. I'd love to see that.
It's probably the exact same setups. It's just some people do it better than others. That's all.
I've seen them where it looks like a regular canopy, and they've got like a bed filter, a sand bed filter up top with black mangrove growing out of it, and they'll let that black mangrove grow out. Get a step stool and climb up there and cut some of it out and let it grow out some more. And cut some of it out and let it grow out some more. Just kind of go on about it like that.
I'm also that really anal specificity guy that where when most people talk about their roadie system and they're talking about the water, they just say RO water. Whereas I specifically define it's RODI because RO is its own thing that can be produced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though if you YouTube search, a lot of the people that just mentioned they're using RO are in fact using RODI, but it's common slang, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So that's just me being a jerk.
That a lot of people don't know that there's a difference between it.
Yeah. Because I've been out of the roadie game for a while, so on the newer setups, I wasn't sure if there was a good way / it would blow the system to bypass the DI and just run it through, sediment filter carbon block RO.
Well,
just don't put a filter in the compartments.
That was what I was. Yeah. Go ahead.
My understanding is like the common household RO units are not RODI. If you're doing a drinking water RO system or a whole house RO system, that's what you're going to get: a sediment filter, carbon block, and RO unit. And you're not going to get the DI exchange.
Mm-hmm. Right, absolutely. Yeah, I'm speaking more in specificity directly to RODI units like we buy for our reef to get, the actual DI part in there. Just because I would run the RODI part for my saltwater tank, pure zero reading, any of that stuff. Whereas if I'm primarily wanting to just let's say run it through, get my chloramine, that type of stuff out, and bring the levels down some, but not to zero, would bypass the DI resin and RO water and not have to, I guess, remineralize quite as much or cut quite the same. Plus those DI resins, at least I know they used to be the priciest part of it in terms of replacement. So if I can run like a, we'll say $10 on the other parts, or I've even heard some people say they get them for $5 at their local fish store for like their carbon block or their sediment filter, and have to just replace the cheaper stuff. It made sense to me that, well, if it's not going to hurt it, can I take the cartridge out like Misfit mentioned in the DI section and just run RO water that's not going to be pure? It's going to show a little bit of TDS, but would be fine for what I'm actually trying to do.
Yeah, just don't. I kind of messed with it before. I just don't put any of your resins and stuff in there. Empty it all out. Leave the chamber empty.
Nice.
Misfit's exactly right. One of my favorite fish keepers I ever actually examined his fish room. He never actually used RODI. He ran 2 ROX carbon doggone it, reaction chambers. They were 2 24-inch reaction chambers with ROX, which is a carbon, but it's a carbon specifically made for aquariums. It's kind of pricey carbon, but it works really well.
Yeah.
And he didn't even use the actual RO membrane. The only problem is if you have a municipality with actual chloramine or chloramine, however you want to pronounce it, there's not a carbon out there that'll get rid of that, except BRS does now have a reaction cartridge that they claim gets rid of it. But just straight carbon will get rid of chlorine, but it won't get rid of chloramine.
Yeah.
But you absolutely can you got to keep in mind, you don't have to buy an RODI ready built unit. You can buy reaction chambers from BRS and fill it with whatever media you want to, and you just put them all in a line.
Mm-hmm. As long as you got the water pressure to power through it.
A pre-made RO unit.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I was, like I said, I've been out of the system so much mechanically, I wasn't sure on the functionality because my other units, I guess at least 15 years old from back in the day. And like I said, this one was sent to me for free. So it's like, well, I don't necessarily need to run DI until I get into doing the salt stuff. And a lot of the people that I'm going to be showing this to probably don't need to run DI. So can we come up with a way to where they're not replacing a DI filter that they, or cartridge that they don't necessarily need to replace the expensive element all the time? Was where my mind.
You can absolutely custom build any incoming water filtration that you want. Your incoming water, depending on how bad or good it is, if all you need is a sediment filter. And I do recommend running, if you're going to run carbon, I recommend running 2 reaction chambers so you can offset your carbon. And that's only because even the best carbon isn't going to get rid of everything. So you run it through a second chamber to get rid of everything that the first chamber didn't. And then you just keep flip-flopping that media and keep that cycle going.
Yeah, I saw somebody that I guess in essence did that. It wasn't in series, but it was, they took out their stage 4, it was a stage 4 system. So they took out their DI and they just put in another carbon in that stage.
I was actually getting ready to say that. You can double fill chambers as well. Carbon filter and sediment filter, have another carbon filter and sediment filter running right after that if it's like a 4-stage or something like that.
I'm glad to hear that because I've been out a little while, so I always like to make sure things haven't changed because they like to with stuff like that. So thank you all. A lot of people going to bed. They're already out of here. I put them to sleep. Zen said, "Oh, James is talking. I'm leaving." Good night to anyone that's headed out. Sorry, we probably missed most of you. We still got 28 people hanging out in here. Not bad for an unannounced 3 a.m. going stream. We've been almost 3 hours now.
Right.
I honestly think this was one of the
Right.
best actual fish talks I've actually seen in a live stream in a long time. We've covered a lot of subjects.
Oh, we have. I miss doing these. This kind of used to be a staple of the channel back in the day that we sadly got away from. And we talked about reviving. So you're probably going to see some more of these. And I appreciate all of you all participating.
Thank
This
you.
is-
We need more late streams. I can't cover them all, damn it. No, I'm joking.
You know, a bunch of fish nerds getting. I'm sorry, Gina. I was just say a bunch of fish nerds getting together discussing stuff is, like he said, probably the best conversation you find.
Everybody's got a different perspective, and that's what I love learning most about it. Is everybody's own individual way of
But
keeping.
everybody's respectful. You know,
Mhm.
we can degree with some level of civility.
That's what I was going to say too. Is like we're all having a discussion. We're not arguing. It's a discussion.
You know, unless you're Ed, and then when I try and talk, you start up power tools. But other than that,
I thought I was at the dentist for a minute.
You should have seen what he was saying to Ed in private chat.
Oh, I didn't even go there.
I was being a smartass.
I know.
No, I honestly think with the people that are on panel, and there's a few others for sure that could be more than invited. If we can't answer a question between all of us, then it's probably not going to get answered ever.
We never heard anything hardly from Austin. Hit us with some puffer knowledge.
Oh, puffer gnaw. Well, I really don't have any new puffers here as of lately. So, although I guess there is a little bit of puffer news. I got a tank for one of my puffers here for the future, and it's a tank that honestly I don't think I ever want to lift again. If we ever do a house renovation, like me and my wife have talked about, I will lift up my 240 here behind me like a dozen times before I ever want to lift this son of a gun ever again. It was
How big is it?
it was well, you know what? Actions speak louder than words. So let me just show you.
Field trip.
Ooh,
Oh wow!
oh man,
So that is
for 1,000 gallon?
I wish, but not quite. So that is 510 gallons.
Nice.
See, I can go to the front here. I've been cleaning it out actually quite a bit. As you can imagine, I'm filling this out, or not filling this out. I haven't put water in this yet, but I'm cleaning this out rather because I'm going to try to put my Maboo puffer in here later. I should turn that light off. Eventually, there we go.
Can you tell us the story where it was?
So some guy here in Omaha had it for a while. He and his wife, though, moved out of the house into an apartment. And while on the phone making a deal with him and such, he just said, look, the wife just says, this is not coming in the apartment. It's going to take up half our living room. So it's not happening. And being a married man myself, I know very much how that works. But it's yeah, his loss became my gain, and after a little bit of a trade, I came home with this 510-gallon beast here.
Wow!
Heck yeah.
That
And
is so
eventually, Mac, my Maboo, will go in there. My wife's trying to talk me into putting stingrays in there with them. I'm not fully
Ooh.
sure about that, though.
Is the puffer feisty?
I mean, like with mid swimmers, like I've had some guppies or endlers in there, just like the feeder ones, because I figured, well, you know, if he takes them down, then I guess, you know, I don't want to see that, but at the same time, oh well. But he leaves all them alone. But if it's snails, shrimp, crayfish, anything on the ground, though, he's wasted no time. He goes after them right away.
Have you tried Corey's with him?
I was just about to say the same thing.
I have not.
Something
actually. I
meaty.
do have some Corys down here. I've thought, you know, I guess maybe I could try to acclimate them or something over. I mean, it's not like that they're a hard fish to find though, otherwise either. But
Right. That and like stingrays are all pretty large fish, depending on which ones you get, you know.
right.
And I know they're kind of found naturally in the wild together, aren't they?
I think so. Because yeah, a Mabu puffer, if I remember correctly, I think that's another African native puffer. So I want to say that I don't know if they're actually in the Nile River too, like with fahakas or anything, but I can't remember what. I could also be wrong, but I think they're African based. But I don't know. I'd imagine there's got to be some sort of freshwater stingrays over there. The climate sounds perfectly well for them over there.
Oh yeah.
But
They're from Africa.
the toros out a lot and all that, so I guess maybe that. But I think the toros get like 2.5 inches or 2.5 feet rather in diameter, though.
Yeah.
Granted, though, the tank is a little over 3 feet front to back, though, so it'd still be enough space for them still, probably.
Yeah. Something to think about.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just said it'd be something to think about. That's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely would love to get stingrays. Something I also thought of is that, of course, since puffers really love snails, my worry is maybe because of course I'm going to put a sandy substrate because that's what puffers like. My worry is if, say, the stingray buries itself in the sand and its eyes are poking up. I've also heard some stories from people on some groups that I follow where the Mabu might mistake those eyes poking out of the sand as a big snail treat, and obviously don't want
Right.
that scenario coming up.
Yeah.
But I guess
Didn't even think about that.
Questions. What would someone do to maybe take all this buildup or stuff on the sides here off without damaging the seal on the wood, I guess?
A lot of people like to use vinegar or citric acid.
I use vinegar.
Vinegar, let it soak for 10, 20 minutes, and then use a box cutter blade.
All right.
Just
I
not
just came
near
back.
don't use the blade near the seal. You don't want to risk peeling that.
Yeah, exactly. I've been trying to
Make sure.
I'm a little confused on what I'm looking at. Is this a plexiglass tank or glass?
It's mostly plywood. It's just glass on
this
the
is
front
a
here.
homemade tank?
Well, it was homemade, not homemade in my home, but
So
somewhere it
the
was
back
homemade.
the back that has the growth you want to get rid of, that's not glass.
No, that's I can't remember what he said. It's some sort of either way, it's some sort of water sealer on plywood.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be taking a razor blade to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
vinegar it up and
Scrub the hell out of it.
hard or something.
I'll take razor blade to glass any day of the week, but not to that.
Yeah. Vinegar and scrub the hell out of it is what I would do. Might take a while, but
Well, just do apple cider vinegar and do a 500-gallon vinegar culture.
Sure.
It'll go away.
give her a good soak.
Tell you what, that'd be a lot of vinegar. I think I'd be taking a couple shipments away if we filled this thing with
Doesn't
vinegar.
barkeeper's friend or something like that work for that stuff?
It might.
What was that again?
Is that fish tank safe?
Yes. I've seen another YouTuber use it to clean out some of that stubborn stuff, and he says he's been using it for a long time. So
Huh.
An awful lot. Here's another thing that Fish Room Fever might be able to talk about sometime is a lot of these cleaners that everybody frowns upon are perfectly safe as long as you rinse your tank out well.
Oh yeah.
You know, I use dish soap on a regular basis to clean tanks, and everybody freaks out on social media going, "Oh my God, you can't use dish soap to clean a tank." Yeah, you can. You just got to rinse it out.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing to look at is porosity of what you're cleaning. Now, if I've got, I wouldn't soak driftwood in dish soap because of the porosity, and it absorbing the soap. Yeah, you could soak it for a long period of time and get that out, or potentially boil it out, I suppose. But for cleaning a tank, glass, plexi, your plastic stuff, you're 100% right. There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean,
All
some
the
people
way
on those
through.
groups also get on my case for using play sand all the time, but kind of as you said, all you gotta do is wash it out more and all that. And honestly, if you're willing to do the little extra work and all that, it saves you a lot of money too.
Sure.
Ian says, "Can you paint over it?"
I've thought about that honestly, but
You'd have to get like a mold killing paint or something.
Is it calcium or?
I'm not fully sure what it is, Ed. To be honest, well, I'm not. Problem is, I've never had a saltwater tank before, so I'm not really sure what.
It's Coraline algae.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's probably either dried cyanobacteria or coralline algae or something.
Well, if that's just pond liner he sealed that with, it'd be hell. It might be best just to kind of rough it up a little bit and then paint over it again with another coat of pond liner.
Sure, I like
Boy,
that.
I would have loved to have seen a 500-gallon saltwater tank. I wonder if it was a reef.
Right.
So here's a question. If it is coralline algae deposit, and you did all the other cleaning, whatever, it still had those that coralline, would that not, as it did break down over time, simply act kind of like a crushed coral and buffering up pH?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I found that the few reef tanks I've taken to freshwater, the coralline algae just eventually just dissipates over time.
It wouldn't be harmful for like the puffer or anything.
No, it's just adding a little calcium to the water. At the most.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it. I don't know. As big as that is, that's a lot of water to use. I don't know if you were planning on leak testing it with a fill or not, or if you saw it in action to know it doesn't leak. That size tank is kind of out of normal parameters. I would say typically when you do your test fill and drain it, and you've let it kind of sit for a while and pull whatever out that's going to immediately leach out, after that, totally safe. Even still, with a good rinse down, it should pull anything out that wouldn't be safe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at most, what are you really looking at? You've got salt, possibly a little bit, but after a rinse out, most of that should be gone. And then it goes back to, like you all mentioned, if it is coralline algae, it's going to do a lot like your crushed coral does and affect pH. So it would be, where's your pH at, and how much would that really affect 500 gallons on a length breakdown? Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. In that volume of water, 500 gallons of water, that residue is inconsequential.
Yeah. I mean, Corey uses a pound of crushed coral per 10 gallons to buffer his up. So, in a 500-gallon tank, that's a lot of pounds of crushed coral just to buffer up what he would do to get his water right. Like he said, that's really inconsequential.
Yep.
That's another interesting thing we should have a conversation about sometime, is how people argue about how much aquarium salt to add to a tank. And they talk in such minuscule numbers. It's like, you do realize how much salt it takes to actually make a difference.
Oh, yeah. The only thing that I found that doesn't take as much necessarily, and we're talking in generalized terms, would be like some of your maybe snails or things that are really salt sensitive. But just in terms of your standard aquarium and your fish, your plants and stuff, if it's aquarium salt, I think that's a topic where a lot of people kind of go, salt is salt is salt, and they don't realize the big differences between, like, say, aquarium salt and like a marine salt and
magnesium salt. Epsom salt.
Yeah.
I think
It's like, guys, you're talking, a lot of these social media arguments wind up because they're arguing over apples and oranges, and they don't understand that.
I don't participate simply for that reason. It is a lot of times ridiculous and redundant.
I always just tell people, when they ask me how much salt should I use for a saltwater aquarium, figure out what parameter your salt needs to be. Usually 1.025. Add enough salt to reach to 1.025 and you're good. That's all I tell them. I don't give them a precise measurement or nothing. Figure it the hell out. Go figure it out. Because until you do it for yourself, I mean,
Experience
gonna
is the
know.
best teacher.
Well, believe it or not, that's the whole that's the whole reason we use RODI units in saltwater is because you start out at a known zero. So when you look at the parameters on the box of your salt, in theory, you should be pretty damn close.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only
Yeah.
reason we use RODI units, is so you start from a known zero.
Yeah. And then you go down the rabbit hole of all the varying salts because it's gotten so much more quote unquote advanced than it used to be. Do you want a reef salt that's adding more of these trace things in? Do you want a basic salt that's just doing the salinity? That's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And adding on to what I said, find a salt that works for you or what you want, and then repeat what I said earlier.
Oh man, I'm telling you right now, at Aquashella, Chicago, there's going to be a street fight on Michigan Avenue. Somebody's going to get shivved over what type of salt to use. It's going to happen.
I think people are crazy.
Yep.
I think after this week, my wife considered me past the point of crazy after carrying this 8-foot tank down my 1893 house stairs. My wife and family thinks I'm probably borderline insane. So my tanks and I might be moving to an asylum soon, perhaps.
You just live in the fish tank, man. You'll be all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Surprised
You
they
already
didn't
have
bury me in the fish tank, honestly.
Looks like you already had a blanket there, so you're set.
Huh?
Did you get that big honking tank down to basement steps by yourself?
Oh no.
I was gonna say.
No.
I was like, wow.
No, I wish I could lift 3, maybe near 400-pound tank by myself, but no, I am definitely not that gifted in the strength department. When it comes to taking care of the fish or perhaps cleaning the tanks, perhaps I somewhat know what I'm doing, but when it comes to logistics and moving heavy stuff, I'm a bit on the shallow end of the drain pool.
one of the first tank like that.
I did the grand scheme of that last 125 I was talking about earlier. I got it from my backyard and down 6 steps into my basement.
Dang.
By myself using a refrigerator dolly and blankets.
Oh, now see if you give me a dolly, then I'm a lot more.
So I get it down here, and then I'm like, okay, now what? I got to get it on the stand. Yeah, I had to call for help.
I would have. I can barely move a 40 breeder, some kind of sand and water in it by myself sometimes. I recently got these like suction cup things that like clamp onto the side of the glass, and if you get them just right on there too, then it really give you some extra grip on these things. But even then, it still don't eliminate the weight factor.
So just a couple of things from the chat. Somebody mentioned they had converted a tank. I don't see where it was, but they soaked it for a week and let funky, crusty salt that came off. Yeah, salt comes off real easy. Somebody else had asked regarding if you filled it up and soaked it, would it remove the coralline algae? On that one, yes and no. Technically, it's going to start, but just to soak isn't going to dissolve it. Coralline algae, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a long time since I was really deep in salt, but coralline algae is not so much an algae like we think of those algae, but a calcifying.
It has a calcium. It has a calcium or calcium structure.
Yeah, so it takes a lot longer to dissolve down something that's built of calcium. It will slowly over time disappear, like we were talking about, but not in just like soaking it for a week or 2 weeks or anything like that.
And you can get coralline algae in freshwater too.
Mm-hmm.
And it nothing short of a razor blade, will get that off.
Yeah, like I say, a razor blade, obviously, with it being a plywood tank, I feel like my ways
Yeah,
of scraping it is a little more limited. Like honestly, I'm even scared to use. Usually on tanks, like when I scraped off some stuff from my 240 here behind me, I just used a steel wool thing, and I'm scared to even honestly use that on the plywood tank too, because I'm worried that's going to scratch it up too much.
if it was me, I would get a, like medium bristle brush, scrub brush. I don't know if I'd use
There you
Scotch
go.
Brite on wood. Just a medium, scrub brush kind of thing. And then I'd take a spray bottle, just a regular spray bottle, and fill it with vinegar, spray it down, and scrub it with a medium scrub brush.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was plywood when I said to use a razor blade.
So, me cheap and lazy, let me ask you this, devil's advocate style. Is it worth the effort to go through, we'll say probably a couple hours in a tank that size of spraying and scrubbing and all that to remove something that won't necessarily be detrimental, that will
Correct.
dissolve?
Yeah.
Well,
It
after
can just
wiping it
dissolve
down
on its
twice
own.
already, I got to tell you right now, I'm losing patience fast.
If you're putting to paint over it, I would say yes, it's worth it. But yeah, if you're just trying to remove it, maybe scrub it for maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, just to try to get all the loose stuff off. But I wouldn't worry about trying to get every little bit off.
I'm
Unless you're
with Fever on this one. Fill it with water and send it.
Yeah.
Full send. Hello, hey, ALSA, Texas Fish Keeper, saying howdy all. I know what I was going to share in terms of moving tanks. And I'm going to say this now. I've been keeping the secret till I do my moving video, but somebody will hear this. And now they're going to do it, and it'll go viral. Not that it would have gone viral for me. But there's actually a piece of equipment that we use in the furniture appliance delivery sector. And because I talk about, or I have, carrying refrigerators. We literally carried them, refrigerators, treadmills, all of that stuff. And they're called shoulder dollies.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just you and one other person, and you can move ridiculously large, heavy things upstairs, downstairs. I mean, I've delivered all through the mountains of Tennessee and Kentucky, second floors, cottages, cabins, the biggest refrigerators that you could get, carrying these suckers. And a lot of that stuff weighed less than our tanks do. So that's something that I'm going to be showcasing when I do move, is carrying the 220 gallon out on its end like it's a refrigerator, because I've got it standing on end, and down the stairs, which is me and one other person, because that is a heavy tank. And I don't recommend, if you are not that I'm in good shape even, but I'm familiar with how they work and all that. I would recommend maybe you try utilizing them before you do something really big and difficult. But they're a fantastic tool that allows two people to be able to move things that you typically can't just grab with your hands and physically carry by yourselves,
Mm-hmm.
And by that, he means two people that are not my size.
Well, I've had some helpers, because I ran the company, so there was drivers and there was helpers, and so I always had a quote unquote helper with me. But I've had some guys that came in, 5'7", 110 pounds, soaking freaking wet, and it took them a couple days to adjust to hauling these big old refrigerators. But it surprised me how little muscle it necessarily took just to move things like that with that system. Because it's putting the weight on your shoulders. So
yeah,
the arm strength really comes in with stairs. So it was always whoever's at the top is guiding, who's going at the top of the stairs, and the person at the bottom is holding the weight. So usually didn't give the new guy the weight just because you didn't want to have to pay for a several $1,000 appliance.
Right.
But even still, it's kind of like a short bench press almost, and you're not picking it up, supporting all the weight, but you are keeping it on balance essentially. So it does take some strength for that in that aspect.
I think people might have been doing a little more of a squat, honestly, at the way we. So my staircase is like, it only gave us about like 3 inches total space from wall to wall with this tank. So we almost literally had to stand this tank like straight up and then send it down the stairs and just almost brute strength it down. I almost wonder. I don't know. That might have been more of a squat, if anything, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and so that's one thing about that system is it allows you all sorts of angles and positions, not just vertically, where you can adjust, whether it's on edge kind of or standing straight up or all that. But it allows you to, depending on the thing, a glass box, not so much, but to bring stuff that's larger than a doorway through a doorway in terms of like, we had what we called a butterfly maneuver, which is if you've got a side-by-side fridge that's 33 inches wide and a 31-inch doorway, you could open the doors, pick it up, angle a door through, bring the body through, angle the other door through, and not have to spend an hour taking it apart, which also works great for couches and things because you can walk a leg through. I had to do that by wrapping a sheet around my neck when I moved my mom's stuff because she has this god-awful hide-a-bed 7-foot couch thing that I told her would burn before it would ever get moved again. But it allows you a lot of weird opportunities to move things in ways that you wouldn't be able to do with just a 2-wheel dolly, a square straightaway. This is the numbers. This is what I have to meet type of thing.
Well, guys, it's 3 o'clock for me. I need to get to bed. I got to be up early. So
Yeah,
head
same.
off of here. I
Same.
really appreciate you having me up for a while. I had a good old time.
I was going to say we ended it about 10 minutes ago, but we got into some good conversation and we were looking at that awesome tank. Thank you, Misfit, Gina, Mexicali, Terry, Screwfisher and Fever, and Chattanooga Ed. Appreciate you as well as everybody else that was up on the panel earlier. I guess we'll go through top to. We'll start with Ed, and everybody can say where you can be found on the YouTubes for anybody that has gotten to this point.
Okay.
I can be found on Fish Room Fever at 9:30 every Thursday night.
Love this guy. Or just look for Chattanooga Ed.
Am I done?
Awesome. Bye, Ed. Austin, where can people find you at?
I'm sorry, did I miss something?
I was just giving you a chance to shout out your channel name for anybody that doesn't know that might come across this.
Oh, yes. Well, those that don't know, I'm Fantastic Freaks, and as James there, it was either you or Ed, one of the two. I'm really into puffers. I love angelfish, and yeah, going to be talking about the future Maboo puffer tank quite a bit here now in the future. It's going to be quite the project if I ever get a stand down here too to go with the tank.
Absolutely. Austin, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, links are in the chat, but I will also try to remember to go put them in the description as well. Bye, Austin. What's up, Gina?
Hey, Gina, let me go next so I can get out of here, and then
Here we go.
all the really cool people can hang out. Hey, guys, my name's Terry. I am the so-called leader of Team Detritus, and we're usually found hanging out near Under Gravel Filter. So with that, I'm out of here. You guys have fun.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm Gina's Reef. I'm either found on Breakfast or on Miss Meat. But yeah, I just do random pop-ups. You have more scheduled streams than I do. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Gina. It has been a blast, and we will talk to you later.
All right, I guess it's my turn now. My channel is Mexicali Fish Keeper. My name is Jorge, but I also go by George, so whichever is easier for you. I don't necessarily stream on my channel, but I do a collab streaming with Warrior Planet Tanks, and we go on every other Saturday at 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And actually, we're going this Saturday, and I invite you guys to come on over. We're going to have a panel similar to what we saw today, and we're having Big Tank Hank, Fishy Biz, Aquafunk, Warrior Planet Tanks, myself, and a special mystery guest that's going to be on that panel for this Saturday. So if you guys are free, like I said, it's 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. come on over. It's going to be under the channel that we have called Fish Plants y Mas. And I think San Ginger had put the link up on the chat earlier. So
She just dropped it again as well. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you. Have a good night at work. Don't let them work you too hard, and we will see you next time. Last but not least,
well, you guys can all find my links and most everybody else's on fishfam.link. So yeah, find me there. I stream Tuesdays, Thursdays. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Sundays are the main days I stream. 2 p.m. on Thursdays Eastern, and 11:30 p.m. on Sunday and Tuesday.
and your full channel name for anybody looking for it.
Misfit Reptiles and Aquatics.
There we go. I appreciate you, my friend. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
We'll see
You
next
too,
time.
man.
Until next time. First off, a huge thank you to everybody that came up on panel tonight and hung out and shared their knowledge, information, and just awesomeness. A huge thank you to the moderators, members, lurkers, listeners, super chatters, contributors, questioners, commentators, and of course the replay crew. If you made it this far, I love you guys. I love you anyway. Until next time, keep your fish healthy, keep yourselves healthy. Don't be afraid to catch yourself a little fish room fever. Take care, everybody. Didn't play.